Chapter 569. Wang Haoren was secretly happy for a while, but he suddenly felt a little strange. It was because Zhuqiu Luoyin looked too young. Just thinking about it made him feel guilty. Why does Zhuqiu Luoyin look like she's only 13 or 14 years old? Wang Haoren asked Ning Aoshue curiously. The Zhuqiu family has a family heirloom technique. After practicing it, you can maintain your current body shape. When you practice it to the highest level, your body shape can become normal in a short time. Ning Aoshue slowly explained. Ning Aoshue explained slowly. Zhuqiu Qinyu started practicing when she was 13 years old. She hasn't mastered it yet. That's why she looks like this. When Wang Haoren heard this, he immediately understood. It sounded a little ridiculous, but when he thought about it, it made sense. It was like the 8 Baron Liuhe unique skill practiced by the Tian Shan child in the Sky Dragon. She could return to her youth after a certain number of years. Of course, the cultivation method of the Zhuqiu family was definitely not the 8 Baron Liuhe unique skill, but it had a similar effect. The Zhuqiu family was able to become the top of the top 10 martial arts families, and the old man Zhuqiu was also a master of Danjin. The cultivation method of the Zhuqiu family must be very powerful. To some extent, the cultivation method of the Zhuqiu family was even more powerful than the one practiced by the Tian Shan child, because the level of martial arts in this world seemed to be higher than that of the Sky Dragon. After all, the true Qi cultivated in the Sky Dragon could not be cultivated for several years in 1 year. It was completely dependent on the number of years. Moreover, only that kind of superior cultivation method could accumulate true Qi to a certain extent. The 3 masters of the Xiaoyao sect each had 70 years of genuine Qi, which added up to 210 years. The old man's Zhuqiu alone had 150 years of genuine Qi. Judging from the density of his genuine Qi, he could be compared to 2 masters. It was reasonable to say that the cultivation method of his Zhuqiu family was above the 8 Baron Liuhe unique skill. Thinking of this, Wang Haoren estimated himself. Now, that he had 400 years of genuine Qi, did it mean that he could be compared to 2 masters of the Xiaoyao sect who had 210 years of genuine Qi? Wang Haoren suddenly had an idea and started to estimate. Just as these thoughts flashed through his mind, Zhuqiu Luoyin and old man Zhuqiu walked closer and closer until they were less than 10 meters away from him. Wang Haoren and Ning Aoshue's gazes were noticed by both of them. Old man Zhuqiu's eyes were calm, and there was no obvious change in his expression. When Zhuqiu Luoyin saw in Ning Aoshue, a trace of tit for tat flashed in her eyes. If Ning Aoshue was the number 1 genius in Sangzhou, then Zhuqiu Luoyin would be number 2. However, the world would only pay attention to the first place and would not pay much attention to the second place. Zhuqiu Luoyin naturally took this to heart. Therefore, she wanted to compete with Ning Aoshue everywhere. After staring at Ning Aoshue for a while, Zhuqiu Luoyin moved her eyes slightly and looked at Wang Haoren next to her. A look of amazement suddenly flashed through her young and tender eyes that carried a hint of seduction. Clearly, she was impressed by Wang Chang's handsomeness. Wang Haoren counted 3 seconds in his heart, but the system did not even move a fart. In other words, the Super Peach Blossom Halo did not activate. Wang Haoren could not help but feel depressed. At this moment, ding! The important supporting female lead Zhuqiu Luoyin's favorability towards the host has increased by 40. Current favorability is 40, very friendly. Wang Haoren was stunned for a moment and did not react immediately. Zhuqiu Luoyin was actually a supporting female lead and not the female lead. This result greatly exceeded Wang Haoren's expectations. Although Zhuqiu Luoyin looked to be only 13 years old, her exquisite body was already beginning to take shape. One could see her future beauty from her slightly tender and delicate face. Wang Haoren could predict that after Zhuqiu Luoyin's cultivation technique was completed, she would definitely grow up to be like Zhuqiu Qinyu. However, there were some differences in temperament between the two. Zhuqiu Qinyu had the temperament of a fierce older sister, while Zhuqiu Luoyin gave people a feeling of gentleness with a bit of arrogance. The two were completely different. The two who seemed to be twins. One was the female lead, and one was the supporting female lead. This was something that Wang Haoran did not expect at all. After thinking for a bit, Wang Haoran suddenly understood something. In Master Ye's main storyline, there should be a single female lead. Zhuqiu Luoyin should only be a very important supporting female lead. To put it bluntly, it was the type that did not care after flirting. Don't think that a single female lead meant she was noble. From Wang Haoran's point of view, this kind of lead was even worse. Choosing a single female lead, how many supporting female leads' lives were ruined? Since there was no interest, why flirt with them? Flirting with them and not caring, that was too much. Like Yanghua, wasn't that how seeing Yanghua ruin their lives came about? Flirting with them when they didn't like them and not taking responsibility after flirting with them. How many women were left alone for a lifetime? On this point, Wang Haoran shamelessly felt that he was a more realistic villain. He was a scumbag, but he had the firm thought of giving all the girls he flirted with a home. Wouldn't it be great if everyone was happy? Wang Haoran silently cursed for a bit before communicating with the system and giving an order. Zhuqiu Luoyin, being a supporting female lead, was even better. Ding! The host has used the charm halo on the important supporting female lead Zhuqiu Luoyin. Zhuqiu Luoyin's affection towards the host has increased to 100. Ding! The host has influenced the plot. Received 4,000 villain points. Yifan protagonist aura -200. Host villain aura +200. Yifan? Such a main character name. There is no need to mention the main character surname Yi, and the character Fan was also a common character. Not to mention, Qin Fan's Fan was a good example. After receiving the system notification, Wang Haoran looked at Zhuqiu Luoyin again. He saw that the way she looked at him had clearly changed. Wang Haoran knew that this girl had completely fallen. But to be honest, although Zhuqiu Luoyin was actually 24-25 years old, she only looked 13 on the surface. Being stared at by Zhuqiu Luoyin like this, Wang Haoran felt quite strange. Ning Aoshue, who is this person beside you? Is he your lover? Zhuqiu Luoyin clearly wanted to know about Wang Haoran, but she was too embarrassed to ask Wang Haoran directly. So she provoked Ning Aoshue and wanted her to say it. This is my friend. Although Ning Aoshue's heart belonged to someone, but her face was not thick enough to lie before confirming her relationship with Wang Haoran. So it's a friend? Zhuqiu Luoyin smiled happily, but Ning Aoshue frowned. A woman's intuition had always been very accurate. She could faintly see that Zhuqiu Luoyin had other thoughts about Wang Haoran beside her. After determining this, Ning Aoshue looked at Zhuqiu Luoyin. Her originally unkind eyes were now filled with hostility. Chapter 570. Ning Aoshue and Zhuqiu Luoyin's eyes met in the air, and sparks were faintly flashing. Wang Haoran suddenly felt that the atmosphere was a bit wrong. He really wanted to say that they didn't need to fight, but on such an occasion, he could only think about it in his heart. He couldn't say it out loud. Little brat, pay attention to yourself. Don't think too much. After staring at each other for a while, Ning Aoshue broke the silence first and said some sharp words. Zhuqiu Luoyin didn't pay much attention to her figure just now. After being reminded by Ning Aoshue, she immediately reacted. She did look a little small. Compared with Ning Aoshue, she didn't have any advantage. However, Zhuqiu Luoyin was naturally unwilling to admit this. Thus, she retorted, "You don't have to worry about that. My family's cultivation technique will be completed very soon. At most, in a few months, I will be able to recover my normal figure." After hearing that, Ning Aoshue's rosy lips curled into a faint sneer. As far as I know, it seems that the Zhuqiu family's heirloom cultivation method requires one to reach the realm of neutralizing strength great grandmaster before it can be regarded as complete. What you're trying to say is that you'll be able to become a neutralizing Jing grandmaster within a few months. Why don't we have a competition? Zhuqiu Luoyin's inner thoughts were exposed. She secretly gritted her teeth and said angrily, "Come on, do you think I'm afraid of you?" Ning Aoshue was indeed stronger, but Zhuqiu Luoyin believed that even if she lost, Ning Aoshue wouldn't gain too much advantage. The atmosphere suddenly became hostile. Just when Zhuqiu Luoyin was about to step forward and fight with Ning Aoshue, the old man Zhuqiu, who had been silent, suddenly said, "Luoyin, the martial arts conference of the top 10 aristocratic families is imminent. It's not good to make more trouble." When the voice entered her ears, Zhuqiu Luoyin immediately calmed down. The old man Zhuqiu didn't deliberately lower his voice, so Ning Aoshue naturally heard it. Ning Aoshue instantly extinguished the idea of fighting with Zhuqiu Luoyin. The old man Zhuqiu was here. Although he wouldn't bully her, if she made Zhuqiu Luoyin suffer a big loss, the old man Zhuqiu would definitely not stand by. This confrontation was actually unfavorable to Ning Aoshue. Ning Aoshue was not stupid. She had already understood this point, but because she cared too much about Wang Haoren, she lost her mind. Old man Zhuqiu's words gave her a way out. How could Ning Aoshue be insensible? Old man Zhuqiu gave Wang Haoren a deep look. He was old and shrewd. Naturally, he could see that his granddaughter was jealous of Ning Aoshue, but he didn't oppose it. He even acquiesced to Zhuqiu Luoyin's actions. Although Wang Haoren didn't seem to have the slightest bit of true energy and looked like an ordinary person, it was precisely because of this that he was even more shocked. Ning Aoshue was the favored daughter of heaven in the Tsang province. She was jealous of the man next to her. To a certain extent, this proved that this man was absolutely not an ordinary person. He was most likely a cultivator. A cultivator that even he could not see through was enough to prove that this young man was very strong. At least, she was better than Ning Aoshue. Otherwise, how could Ning Aoshue let go of her delicate attitude? And this young man was about the same age as Ning Aoshue, which made old man Zhuqiu more interested. He even wanted to pull Wang Haoren to the Zhuqiu family. The girl of the Ning family was beautiful. Was the girl of the Zhuqiu family bad? You're not from the Tsang province, are you? How should I address you? Old man Zhuqiu asked Wang Haoren with a smile. If he was the protagonist, would this old man warn him to stay away from Zhuqiu Luoyin? Wang Haoren thought with interest and replied, "That's right. Qing Ling, Wang Haoren." Old man Zhuqiu nodded and said with a smile, "No wonder. If you are in the Tsang province, you must be a well-known figure. Even Ning Aoshue is far inferior to you." "Old fox, do you think I can't see through such an obvious test?" Wang Haoren secretly complained, but on the surface, he acquiesced. He didn't pretend to be an ordinary person as usual. The purpose of his coming here was to persuade the Zhuqiu family to cancel the meeting of the top 10 martial arts families. If he didn't have any ability, how could he make the Zhuqiu family listen to him? How could he make Zhuqiu Luoyin faint with his handsomeness? It was true that old man Zhuqiu doted on his granddaughter, but this was related to the martial arts situation in the Tsang province and the position of the Zhuqiu family's leader. Zhuqiu Luoyin might not be able to persuade him. Now that old man Zhuqiu thought that his martial arts were outstanding, of course, he would follow his wishes. Why should he deny it? "You are a guest from afar. I see that you and I are fated. After the morning exercise, would you do me the honor of visiting my humble home?" Old man Zhuqiu saw that he was almost done, so he invited, "Senior, it would be impolite for me to refuse your kindness." Wang Haoren originally wanted to talk with old man Zhuqiu. This was exactly what he wanted, so he naturally agreed. After Zhuqiu Luoyin heard it, she was so excited that she almost jumped up. Seeing this scene, Ning Aoshue frowned slightly, as if she was afraid that Wang Haoren would be snatched away by Zhuqiu Luoyin if he went to the Zhuqiu family. "Don't worry, I'm going to do something serious." Wang Haoren comforted Ning Aoshue with a sound transmission using genuine qi. Ning Aoshue's frowning brows relaxed in an instant. Old man Zhuqiu and Zhuqiu Luoyin began to practice a set of light punches and kicks. Wang Haoren sat on the side and waited, not doing anything. Ning Aoshue also didn't leave immediately, but quietly accompanied by the side. Wang Haoren looked at the punches and kicks in front of him thoughtfully. To be honest, except for Wing Chun, he didn't have any other punches and kicks. He relied on genuine qi to fight. In the case of genuine qi cultivation, naturally, he was always at a disadvantage. It could be said that one force could break all methods. But in a situation where the cultivation of true qi was about the same, the martial arts of fists and feet would be very important. Wang Haoren carefully looked at the set of light and slow moves that old man Zhuqiu and Zhuqiu Luoyan were practicing. It looked ordinary, but there was something special about it. Wang Haoren secretly learned a little and even demonstrated it in his mind. Soon, he found that this set of moves wasn't smooth and seemed to be flawed and incomplete. The moves were flawed, incomplete. The park, the old man, the young girl, some words appeared in Wang Haoren's mind, and he was terrified when he thought about it. F***, what a familiar trick. Wasn't this the classic melodramatic routine in many novels? The old man in the park, the young girl, the moves flawed and incomplete. Everything was ready, the stage was set, and they were just waiting for the protagonist to show off. After Wang Haoren judged this point, he was very excited. There was no doubt that the protagonist of this routine was Master Yi, who was suspected to be the protagonist of immortal cultivation. Wang Haoren had a protagonist memory copy card. If he copied Master Ye's memory, he could get all the immortal cultivation techniques in his memory. I've been looking forward to it for so long. Finally, I have a chance to change from martial cultivation to immortal cultivation. Wang Haoren was nervous and excited. He looked around, looking for Master Yi. Chapter 571. Most people would not dare to disturb the place where old Master Zhuqiu and his granddaughter were cultivating. Wang Haoren scanned his surroundings, looking for this ignorant person. Soon, he found a boy who looked like he was 18 years old. The boy looked ordinary, but when he walked with his hands behind his back. His face was calm, as if nothing could affect his mood. He did not look like an 18-year-old boy at all. Moreover, he did not know if this guy liked peace and quiet or if he was ignorant. He was walking toward old Master Zhuqiu and his granddaughter. However, it did not matter which reason it was. The important thing was that Wang Haoren was almost certain that this boy was Yi Fan. He communicated with the system and checked it immediately. Protagonist, Yi Fan, combat strength, 26087, charm, 89, protagonist aura, 29078, skill, golden finger celestial failed unification and was reborn 1,000 years ago. Current cultivation level, Qi refinement level 5. After Wang Haoren took a quick look, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air, and his heart twitched. Initially, he had thought that Yi Fan would stumble upon an immortal cultivation method and embark on the path of immortal cultivation. It turned out that Yi Fan was not an ordinary immortal cultivator. He was reborn as an immortal. The disparity between the two was huge. However, this feeling of depression did not last long. It was soon replaced by ecstasy. From the perspective of the protagonist memory duplication card, it was better that Yi Fan was a celestial. This was because Wang Haoren would be able to gain more knowledge and knowledge. This Yi Fan had 1,000 years of experience. Just the thought of it was terrifying enough. Wang Haoren communicated with the system nervously and immediately issued an order. Ding! The host has used the protagonist memory duplication card on Yi Fan, beginning to duplicate Yi Fan's memory and insert it into the host's memory. As the system's notification rang out, Wang Haoren felt as if there were mountains and seas of information surging into his mind. Images of Yi Fan's childhood flashed through Wang Haoren's mind rapidly. These memories were not important at all. They were just some things from a child's childhood. It was very boring. Wang Haoren flipped through it and felt very stuffy. These memories were transmitted according to the timeline. For the time being, Wang Haoren stopped looking at these memories and focused on reality. While Wang Haoren was investigating, Yi Fan was getting closer and closer. Fortunately, he was walking very slowly and was still a few dozen meters away. Old man Zhuqiu and Zhuqiu Luoyan were focused on practicing the light and slow martial arts. Wang Haoren could already guess what would happen when Yi Fan got closer. When Yi Fan saw old man Zhuqiu and Zhuqiu Luoyan's martial arts, he laughed and shook his head. Zhuqiu Luoyan was a bit unruly, so she was not convinced. She asked Yi Fan why he was laughing. Yi Fan ignored him. Zhuqiu Luoyan attacked. Yi Fan could start showing off and intimidate Zhuqiu Luoyan. Old Man Zwichyo was shocked when he saw Yi Fan attack. This young man is more powerful than me. Then, he wanted to befriend Yi Fan. At this time, Yi Fan would definitely not reveal his real name. Because if he did, Old Man Zwichyo would know that he was the person the 10 great families were targeting. In that case, the meeting of the 10 great families would not be able to proceed. It would not be convenient for Yi Fan to show off. As long as he hid his identity, he could create the effect of showing off. During the meeting of the 10 great families, Yi Fan suddenly appeared. Old Man Zwichyo's expression would definitely be very interesting, but it was too late to stop him. The 10 great families joined forces and attacked Yi Fan. At first, it was a one-on-one battle, but after a while, Yi Fan felt bored and said, "All of you, come at me." Wang Haoren was all too familiar with this kind of old trick. He put away the thought of complaining and quickly said to Old Man Zwichyo and Zwichyo Luoyan before Yi Fan came over, "I've heard a lot about the Zwichyo family, the leader of the 10 great families in Sangzhou. I really can't wait. Why don't we go to the Zwichyo family now?" Hearing Wang Haoren's words, Old Man Zwichyo and Zwichyo Luoyan stopped fighting and held their breath. Zwichyo Luoyan could not wait to invite Wang Haoren to the Zwichyo family. After hearing Wang Haoren's words, she was naturally very happy and immediately replied, "Okay, let's go now." Old Man Zwichyo also nodded with a smile. "It's my negligence to let you wait here." Wang Haoren smiled and told Ning Aoshue to go back first. Ning Aoshue was a little worried, but she still nodded and asked Wang Haoren to come back as soon as possible. Wang Haoren agreed and then urged Ning Aoshue to go quickly. Although Yi Fan's main storyline was a single female lead, Wang Haoren was still afraid that there would be some plot with Ning Aoshue. Naturally, he wanted Ning Aoshue to leave quickly. Wang Haoren was relieved after seeing Ning Aoshue leave. At this moment, Yi Fan was about 10 meters away. Wang Haoren quickly asked Old Man Zwichyo to lead the way. Seeing Wang Haoren in such a hurry, Old Man Zwichyo thought that he really could not wait to visit the Zwichyo family. He immediately smiled from ear to ear and quickly led the way. Without the boxing incident as a trigger, Yi Fan did not have any interaction with Old Man Zwichyo after seeing him. Old Man Zwichyo had never seen Master Yi before. He only thought that he was an ordinary boy and did not pay much attention to him. Just like that, Yi Fan missed the plot. Ding! The host has influenced the plot. Received 4,000 villain points. Yi Fan's protagonist aura minus 200. Host villain aura plus 200. Wang Haoren successfully received a wave of rewards and went to the Zwichyo family with Old Man Zwichyo and Zwichyo Luoyan. After some time, Wang Haoren arrived in front of a grand and imposing mansion. Most of the buildings in Sangzhou maintained the ancient style. The Zwichyo family's mansion was absolutely luxurious. It was comparable to the mansion of a prince in ancient times. However, the Zwichyo family's position as the head of the top 10 martial arts families was completely worthy of this mansion. Old Man Zwichyo invited Wang Haoren into the mansion and came to a living room. After asking the servants to serve the best tea, Old Man Zwichyo and Wang Haoren chatted for a while and gradually got to the point. "Little friend, if I'm not wrong, your strength is definitely in the realm of neutralizing Grandmaster. Even in the hidden Jianghu, with this cultivation, you would be the master of sect. You're really a young hero." The sudden compliment made Wang Haoren guess something. "Senior, you want me to attend the meeting of the top 10 martial arts families in Sangzhou, right?" Old Man Zwichyo was stunned. Then, his old face squeezed together and revealed a smile. "Little friend, you're really smart. No wonder your martial arts cultivation is so high at such a young age. Actually, I'm here for the meeting of the 10 martial arts families." Wang Haoren picked up the teacup on the tea table next to him, took a sip, and continued, "Actually, I came here for the meeting of the 10 martial arts families. However, I hope that the meeting of the top 10 martial arts families will be canceled." Chapter 572. The smile on Old Man Zwichyo's face grew wider when he heard the first part of Wang Haoren's speech. However, the second part of his speech made his old face scrunch up. "What do you mean, young friend?" Old Man Zwichyo's expression turned serious. He could not tell whether Wang Haoren was a friend or a foe. "Don't worry. I'm not with Mr. Yi," Wang Haoren clarified and continued. "At least you know each other, right?" Old man Zhuqiu asked in surprise. "You can take it that we're enemies," Wang Haoren said. Old man Zhuqiu was even more confused when he heard that. "If that's the case, why are you stopping the meeting of the 10 martial arts families?" "Because you're too weak. Even if all of you work together, you won't be able to defeat Master Yi," Wang Haoren said bluntly. "You must be joking, young friend." Old man Zhuqiu naturally did not believe him. The martial arts in Sangzhou had been developing for many years. The 10 martial arts families were extremely powerful when they joined forces. How could they not even defeat Master Yi? Seeing old man Zhuqiu's reaction, Wang Haoren knew that this stubborn old man would not change his mind if he did not show him something practical. With that in mind, Wang Haoren did not deliberately hide all of his true qi. He revealed half of his true qi cultivation base. His aura spread out and soon disappeared. Even so, old man Zhuqiu still noticed it. "You're actually an elixir gene grandmaster?" Old man Zhuqiu was shocked. He thought that Wang Haoren was only a Huajin grandmaster with 100 years of true qi. He never expected that Wang Haoren was actually an elixir gene grandmaster with 200 years of true qi. Wang Haoren caught a glimpse of old man Zhuqiu's reaction and was secretly amused. 200 years of true qi and you're so surprised? If I reveal 400 years of true qi cultivation base, you'll be scared to death. He thought to himself mockingly. However, the mockery soon dissipated. Although 400 years of true qi was amazing, it was nothing compared to Yi Fan's. As he absorbed more and more memories, Wang Haoren also had a basic understanding of some of the ways of immortal cultivation. The limit of martial arts was 500 years worth of true qi. Hence, they were known as land immortals. But if he really wanted to make a fuss about it, the title of human immortal Lu Di was just smearing gold on his face. This was because human immortal Lu Di was only equivalent to the 5th level of qi disciple. What was the refinement stage? This was the beginning stage of cultivation. There were a total of 9 levels in the qi refinement stage. The gap between martial arts and immortal cultivation was like a natural chasm. He might be impressive in front of old man Zhuqiu, but he was nothing in front of Yi Fan. Wang Haoren's villainous aura was already very high. Logically speaking, when he met Yi Fan, even if Yi Fan did not show any hostility towards him, he would at least pay special attention to him. But Yi Fan didn't. The reason was simple. Even though Yi Fan was only at the 5th level of qi disciple, he still had the vision and pride of a celestial lord. In Yi Fan's eyes, the people around him were just ants. Why would he pay special attention to ants? That's nothing. That Grandmaster Yi is even more powerful. If the 10 great martial arts families gather together to deal with Grandmaster Yi, it's like hitting a rock with an egg. "You're just asking for trouble," Wang Haoren said calmly. Old man Zhuqiu became timid when he heard that. Forget about Grandmaster Yi. Even if the martial arts families work together, they might not be able to gain an advantage over someone of Wang Haoren's cultivation. If we don't work together, are we going to let Grandmaster Yi deal with us one by one? Old man Zhuqiu was worried. Wang Haoren had already guessed that one of the 10 great martial arts families had offended Yi Fan. And after knowing that Yi Fan was a celestial lord, he was almost certain of that. If it wasn't necessary, Yi Fan would definitely not mess with martial arts cultivators. It was not worth it at all. Moreover, Wang Haoren had obtained Yi Fan's memories and learned about Yi Fan's way of doing things and principles. Yi Fan would not provoke ants. If he really did make a move, it could only mean that the ant was too noisy. It was like a normal person walking on the road. If he saw an ant, he would not deliberately step on it. However, if the ant insisted on walking on the road, it would be a different story. That was probably the reason why Yi Fan had a conflict with some of the martial arts families. Of course, Wang Haoren would definitely not say those words to old man Zhuqiu. "If you guys work together, you'll only alert the enemy and affect my plan. Cancel the meeting of the 10 great martial arts families. I'll deal with Grandmaster Yi," Wang Haoren said. "In that case, I'll have to trouble you, little friend," old man Zhuqiu agreed. He then reminded earnestly, "Little friend, you must be careful so that you won't be at a disadvantage in the hands of Grandmaster Yi. He's at most a little stronger than me. If we really fight, I might not be able to defeat him, but I won't be at a disadvantage," Wang Haoren said casually. However, in reality, he was no match for Yi Fan at all. That guy was also an immortal venerable. Although he was only at 50% of the Qi refinement stage, Wang Haoren was still far from being his match. The only thing Wang Haoren could rely on was his deep understanding of Yi Fan's character after copying his memories. Yi Fan was definitely not someone who would take the initiative to cause trouble. It was impossible for him to be calculative with an ant. Wang Haoren had grasped this point. As long as the meeting of the 10 great martial arts families to discuss how to deal with Yi Fan was cancelled, Yi Fan would definitely not cause trouble. Although Old Man Zhuqiu was old and experienced, Wang Haoren's acting was worthy of being called the best actor. Old Man Zhuqiu could not tell that Wang Haoren was bluffing at all. After hearing Wang Haoren's words, he immediately believed it. Old Man Zhuqiu looked at Wang Haoren with an even more fervent gaze after this thought popped up in his mind. "Why are you standing outside and eavesdropping? Hurry up and come in," Old Man Zhuqiu said to the direction outside the living room. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhuqiu Lian's head popped out from the door of the living room. Old Man Zhuqiu and Wang Haoren had long discovered that Zhuqiu Luoyan was eavesdropping. However, they did not point it out. It was only when Old Man Zhuqiu suddenly thought of something that he called out Zhuqiu Luoyan, who was eavesdropping. "What eavesdropping? I'm just passing by." Zhuqiu Luoyan walked in openly. She did not admit that she was eavesdropping at all. Naturally, Old Man Zhuqiu would not dwell on this matter. In fact, he had long seen through his granddaughter's thoughts about Wang Haoren. Old Man Zhuqiu did not object to this at all. In fact, he even wanted to facilitate this matter. After organizing his words, Old Man Zhuqiu chuckled and said to Wang Haoren, "Young Man Zhuqiu, you don't seem to understand. Young friend, don't be fooled by Lian's appearance of 13 or 14 years old. In fact, she is already over 20 years old. It's only because she has practiced our Zhuqiu family's heirloom cultivation method that her figure is petite. But you don't have to worry. When Li Yin's heirloom cultivation method is fully mastered, it won't take long for her figure to return to her normal age." While speaking, Zhuqiu Luoyan looked at Wang Haoren meaningfully and continued, "Young friend, didn't you say earlier that you want to take a good look at the Zhuqiu family? The Zhuqiu family is very big, and it will take some time to tour. Why don't you stay in my Zhuqiu clan's residence for the night, and let Luoyan take you around?" Chapter 573. Old Man Zhuqiu's words were like a broken window paper. He almost pushed Zhuqiu Luoyan into Wang Haoren's arms. As long as one was not a fool, one could naturally understand Old Man Zhuqiu's meaning. Zhuqiu Luoyan's face was red. She blamed her grandpa for speaking without thinking. She opened her mouth and wanted to refute, but she closed her mouth again after thinking about it. Although her grandfather's words were straightforward and made her feel ashamed as a girl, this was what she had been looking forward to. Since her grandpa intended to facilitate this matter, wasn't it good? Thinking of this, Zhuqiu Luoyan suddenly looked nervously at Wang Haoren to see his reaction. Facing Old Man Zhuqiu's enthusiasm, Wang Haoren's eyes flickered, and then he replied, "Thank you for your kindness, Old Man Zhuqiu. But I have something due later, so I won't stay here." This was not him being pretentious, but Zhuqiu Luoyan looked too young. What did she do here? At most, they could chat. Wang Haoren was not interested. If he had to talk with a woman all night, he would rather go back to Ning family to find Ning Aoshue. After hearing Wang Haoren's tactful refusal, Old Man Zhuqiu's wrinkled face flashed with disappointment. Zhuqiu Luoyan on the side bowed her head and said nothing. Her expression was extremely gloomy. Her small hands were also tightly grasping the corner of her clothes, which showed that her heart was not calm. After a moment of silence, Zhuqiu Luoyan raised her head again. She seemed to have gathered her courage and said, "In your eyes, I'm not as beautiful as Ning Aoshue, right? You are all beautiful. Each of you has your own charm. There is no difference between the two of you." Wang Haoren explained with a smile. "Then why do you? Is it because I look too young? In 2 years at most, my family's cultivation method will definitely be cultivated to the advanced level. At that time, I will be able to look like a normal person. Zhuqiu Luoyin cared too much about this matter, so she couldn't help but anxiously reveal her heart. As she spoke, she suddenly felt that 2 years was too long, so she immediately added, I know that 2 years is a little long, but it doesn't affect anything. In ancient times, women had already given birth at the age of 13. After saying this, Zhuqiu Luoyin's face was so red that it was about to bleed. However, the meaning behind his words was already very clear. The implication was that she could do whatever Ning Aoxue could do. When old man Zhuqiu heard his granddaughter's words, an awkward expression appeared on his old face. His granddaughter was considered a young lady from a prestigious family. How could she be so shameless when she spoke? It was simply ruining the reputation of his Zhuqiu family. But on second thought, how was his words any better than his granddaughter's? Any normal person would be able to see that she was pushing her granddaughter into Wang Haoren's arms. Old man Zhuqiu weighed the pros and cons and still felt that the future of the family was more important than the reputation of the family. Moreover, there was only Wang Haoren here, so he probably wouldn't tell anyone. Thinking of this, old man Zhuqiu added, My young friend, Luoyin is no worse than Ning Aoxue of the Ning family, and there is one thing that Ning Aoxue can't compare with her. While speaking, old man Zhuqiu's eyes revealed a trace of wretchedness. Wang Haoren caught this slight, emotional change and immediately became curious. He asked subconsciously, What is it, my young friend? Have you heard of the word nurture? Old man Zhuqiu hinted. Hearing this, Wang Haoren glanced at Zhuqiu Luoyin, who was in a lowly form, and immediately understood. Old man Zhuqiu looked serious. He was originally a frivolous old man, but he actually knew about nurture. However, when he said that, and was reminded by this frivolous old man, Wang Haoren was weirdly moved. Old man, you lead me astray, Wang Haoren secretly complained for a while, but on the surface he maintained a serious looked at Zhuqiu Luoyin, and said, It's not that I don't mean it, but I really have something to do tonight, so it's really inconvenient for me to stay here. Next time, if there's a chance, I'll definitely come over and have a chat with Miss Zhuqiu. While speaking, he cast a glance at Zhuqiu Luoyin. Zhuqiu Luoyin instantly turned from worry to joy, and she was overjoyed. Saying such frivolous words to his granddaughter in front of him, old man Zhuqiu was slightly embarrassed. However, this was a great thing for the Zhuqiu family. By the way, do you have a twin sister? Wang Haoren suddenly thought of something and asked Zhuqiu Luoyin. Twin sister? Of course not. Zhuqiu Luoyin was puzzled for a while, shook her head, and replied, No. Wang Haoren couldn't help but be a little disappointed. Was it really a coincidence that Zhuqiu Luoyin and Zhuqiu Qinyu had similar names and appearances? However, just as Wang Haoren was thinking about this, old man Zhuqiu suddenly asked in surprise, My young friend, why do you ask? I have a friend called Zhuqiu Qinyu. She's about 24-25 years old. Wang Haoren paused for a while, looked at Zhuqiu Luoyin, and continued. She's very similar to you. In terms of appearance, she's basically an adult version of you. Zhuqiu Luoyin was stunned and looked at her grandfather with some doubts. Old man Zhuqiu's face was filled with shock, and he immediately jumped up from his seat. He hurriedly asked, My young friend, are you serious? I'm not that bored to make such a joke, Wang Haoren said. Then, is there a tattoo of the words Zhuqiu Qinyu in red on her left shoulder? Old man Zhuqiu was so excited that he asked incoherently. When Wang Haoren heard this, he couldn't help but want to ridicule this old man. He already said that he was friends with Zhuqiu Qinyu. What did this old man mean? Did he think that he had taken a look? However, to be honest, Wang Haoren had seen it with his X-ray vision. He vaguely remembered that there were these words on one of Zhuqiu Qinyu's shoulders. At that time, he only thought that Zhuqiu Qinyu had tattooed herself because she thought it was fun. After all, Zhuqiu Qinyu was a big sister. Wasn't it normal to have some tattoos? Moreover, the tattoo was her name. This was even less of a surprise. However, after seeing old man Zhuqiu's reaction, he understood that the tattoo on Zhuqiu Qinyu's shoulder was related to her background. No wonder Zwichio Chinyu kept the name Zwichio Chinyu after she was separated from the Zwichio family. It turned out that it was tattooed on her body. I'm not sure about this, but I can make a call and ask. Of course, Wang Haoren wouldn't directly say that he had seen it. After saying that, Wang Haoren walked to the side and pretended to make a call. Then, he replied to Old Man Zwichio. She said there is. It must be her. So Chinyu is still alive. Luoyan, you do have a twin sister called Zwichio Chinyu. Old Man Zwichio was so excited that he was like a child. He danced with joy and even seemed a little crazy. When Wang Haoren saw his reaction, he guessed that this was a scene of a lost child. Sister, Zwichio Luoyan muttered to herself. Then, she revealed an extremely excited smile. She had always been looking forward to what she would look like when she grew up. However, no matter how she imagined it, it felt a little unreal. Her twin sister's appearance must be what she would look like when she grew up, right? Young friend, where is Chinyu? Where is she? Old Man Zwichio quickly asked. Chapter 574. She's in Qingling, Wang Haoren replied. Old Man Zwichio. She's in Qingling? That's great. Little friend, quickly take me to her. Old Man Zwichio was very agitated and urged him. The date of the meeting of the top 10 martial arts families in Sangzhou has been set. You can't stop it if you don't show up personally. Wang Haoren reminded him. He could understand Old Man Zwichio's feelings, but it was urgent. Zwichio Chinyu was in Qingling, and she wouldn't run away. However, he had to solve the problem in Sangzhou as soon as possible. Yes, you're right. Old Man Zwichio suppressed his eagerness and said quickly after hearing Wang Haoren's words, I'll inform the other martial arts families to cancel the meeting immediately. That's great. I'll go back to Qingling after this. Let's go together. Wang Haoren said. Old Man Zwichio nodded and asked Zwichio Luoyan to entertain Wang Haoren while he went to do something important. Wang Haoren stayed in the Zwichio family for half a day. He visited the Zwichio family's mansion symbolically and returned to the Ning family in the evening. Ning Aoshue was afraid that Wang Haoren wouldn't come back. She stood at the door of the Ning family like a rock waiting for her husband. When she saw Wang Haoren, Ning Aoshue, who was in a petrified state, seemed to come back to life. The Ning family prepared a sumptuous dinner to entertain Wang Haoren. After dinner, Wang Haoren went back to his bedroom to organize his memories. He started to receive Yi Fan's memories in the early morning. He didn't finish until now. Wang Haoren immediately flipped through these memories and found some key points from them. Before Yi Fan was reborn, his cultivation was at the peak of the tribulation stage. Cultivators at this stage were called immortal primes. Yi Fan was his name, but he had another name, Xiantian, which was Yi Xiantian. After he started cultivating, Yi Fan used the name Yi Xiantian. Therefore, after Yi Fan reached the tribulation stage, he was called Xiantian Immortal Primes. He was one of the few immortal sovereigns in the universe. After the peak of the crossing calamity stage, it was the unifying path stage. Merging one's body with the universe and achieving immortality was known as Tao unification. If the Tao integration was successful, Yi Fan would become the supreme ruler of this universe. However, it was a pity that Yi Fan's heart demon had appeared when he was trying to merge with the Tao. This inner demon directly caused Yi Fan to fail his unification and almost die. However, with the blessing of the protagonist's halo, he was lucky enough to be reborn as a teenager on the Blue Planet. The so-called Blue Planet was the planet that Wang Haoren was standing on. As for Yi Fan's heart demon, it was also very interesting. It was because of a woman. She was a woman who also lived on the Blue Planet, and her female lead halo was very powerful, because this woman had also embarked on a journey of cultivation. In Yi Fan's memory, he liked this woman in his previous life. However, due to various reasons, the two of them did not end up together. Later on, because of an accident, this woman was killed and her Tao dissipated. When Yi Fan heard the news, he was furious. At that time, his cultivation was also very high. In order to seek revenge, he slaughtered all life on the planet that had caused the woman's death. Since then, Yi Fan had been brooding over it, but he eventually forgot about it. He did not deliberately think about it, and even forgot about this woman. Even when he was in the tribulation transcendence realm, nothing happened. However, when he was trying to merge with the Tao, his past memories surfaced. Only then did he realize that his heart was missing, resulting in a terrifying inner demon. So he had not forgotten that woman and had always loved her deeply. However, this woman was already dead, becoming an irreparable regret for him. During the Tao unification, the greatest taboo was to lose one's heart. This caused Yi Fan to fail his Tao unification. From Yi Fan's memories, Wang Haoren learned that this woman's name was Feng Yuru. After embarking on the path of cultivation, her cultivation progressed very smoothly. After she became famous, she was called Fairy Yuru. Wang Haoren was 100% certain that this was the single female lead in Yi Fan's main storyline. After Yi Fan's rebirth, he began cultivating again. In order to make up for the loss in his heart, he naturally wanted to make up for this regret. After sorting out these thoughts, Wang Haoren had a good plan to deal with Yi Fan. Feng Yuru was absolutely important to Yi Fan. She was even related to the progress of Yi Fan's cultivation. In the path of immortal cultivation, there was a saying that one had to have a clear mind. Only by having a clear mind could one's cultivation progress rapidly. If one's mind was not clear, one's cultivation would be hindered. Under depression, it might even lead to inner demons. This was a very terrifying thing for immortal cultivators. Ignoring ordinary immortal cultivators, even immortal supremacies at the tribulation transcendence realm would not be able to withstand inner demons. Immortal supremacy mystic heaven was the best example. If Feng Yuru's heart was stolen by someone, or even what would happen, what would Yi Fan think? In his previous life, although Yi Fan and Feng Yuru liked each other, they had never held hands. After Yi Fan's rebirth, he was determined to woo Feng Yuru. But before he even took action, Feng Yuru was already someone else's? How uncomfortable would that be? Wang Haoren thought for a moment and instantly felt that this plan was brilliant. Moreover, looking at the timeline, this plan was very feasible. Because in his previous life, Yi Fan and Feng Yuru did not know each other at this time. At this time, Yi Fan was still in his third year of high school in Sangzhou, while Feng Yuru was in her third year of high school in another city. They only met in university after their third year of high school. It was only October now. The college entrance exam would be in June next year, and school would start in September. It was still a long time before the two of them met. Of course, Yi Fan had the memories of his previous life, and naturally knew Feng Yuru. But at this time, Feng Yuru still did not know Yi Fan. Wang Haoren wanted to use this information gap to intercept Yi Fan. The plan to deal with Yi Fan was already clear. Wang Haoren quickly thought of another thing. Yi Fan was now at Qi refining stage 5, which was equivalent to a demigod at the limit of martial arts. However, his real combat power could kill a demigod instantly. This was because Yi Fan's skills were not martial arts, but divine martial arts. Under the same conditions of true Qi, Yi Fan's divine martial arts would naturally kill other martial arts. Moreover, to be precise, Yi Fan did not have true Qi but spiritual Qi. Under the situation where Yi Fan had not improved, Wang Haoren could not defeat Yi Fan even if he had reached the level of a demigod with 500 years of true Qi. This was the shortcoming of martial arts cultivation. Only those who cultivated immortality could defeat those who cultivated immortality. Wang Haoren flipped through Yi Fan's memories and began to look for ways to cultivate immortality. Yi Fan's 1,000 years of accumulation was simply too huge. There were countless ways to cultivate immortality. Wang Haoren directly looked at Yi Fan's most powerful immortal cultivation skill, Yudi Longevity Manual. Yi Fan had relied on this skill to reach the peak of tribulation stage and was only one step away from unification stage. The potential of this skill was actually enough to allow one to reach unification stage. It was naturally self-evident how powerful it was. However, after Wang Haoren roughly looked through it, he realized that the cultivation requirements of this skill were too harsh. This was because the beginner level of the Yudi Longevity Manual required a lot of supplementary cultivation resources. These resources cannot be found on Blue Planet. Chapter 575. In his previous life, Yi Fan had also spent a long time collecting the supplementary cultivation resources needed for the youthful Dharch longevity secret art after he left the Blue Planet and embarked on his journey across the universe. In other words, Yi Fan had yet to cultivate the youthful Dharch longevity secret art. Apart from the supplementary cultivation resources, there was another harsh condition, and that was to have the aptitude to cultivate. Wang Haoren did not have it. He only had the aptitude of a mortal. After coming to this conclusion, Wang Haoren could not help but feel a little sad. Speaking of which, he was originally just a rich second-generation villain in the main storyline. It was only with the help of the supervillain system that he gradually became stronger. It was normal for him to not have the aptitude to cultivate. Wang Haoren adjusted his mentality and began to search for an immortal cultivation method that was suitable for him. There were many immortal cultivation paths. However, there were many paths that led to the same destination. The youthful Dharch longevity secret art was only one of the paths that led to Tao unification. This cultivation method was not created by Yi Fan. It was created by someone else. However, even the creator of this cultivation method had not succeeded in Tao unification. Yi Fan had not succeeded either. This was because there could only be one Tao unification cultivator in a universe. There were no Tao unification cultivators in the universe he was in at the moment. This youthful Dharch longevity secret art had been cultivated by at least 2 people, but both of them had failed. If it had not cultivated, then so be it. Wang Haoren soon got over it. He searched Yi Fan's memories for other powerful immortal cultivation methods. After searching for a while, Wang Haoren saw a cultivation method called the Devil Emperor Inner Sutra. In essence, this cultivation method was actually a dual cultivation method. However, the name Devil Emperor Inner Sutra was actually given by Yi Fan. However, this cultivation method was not purely about plundering and nourishing. It was beneficial to both parties. This was because a part of the cultivation method was cultivated by the female party. The reason why it was named Devil was because the creator of this cultivation method had a unique behavior. Hence, it was crowned with the word devil. The creator of this cultivation method was known as the Extreme Heaven Devil Emperor. The Extreme Heaven Devil Emperor was particularly fond of the Tao partners of other male cultivators. Most of his cultivation partners were the Tao companions of other immortal cultivators. Those weak male immortal cultivators who had their Taoist companions snatched naturally had to swallow their anger. However, not only did this Extreme Heaven Devil Emperor snatch the Tao companion of a weak cultivator, he even abducted the Tao companion of a tribulation-passing immortal venerable. In any case, as long as he took a fancy to a female cultivator, he would kidnap her and be done with it. He would not care about the cultivation level of this female cultivator's male companion. In fact, the higher the cultivation of the male companion of a female cultivator, the more interested and excited the Extreme Heaven Devil Emperor was. After the first attempt, the Extreme Heaven Devil Emperor became more and more enthusiastic. He even snatched the Tao companions of 3 male, transcending tribulation immortal venerables. Because of this, he incurred the wrath of the public. The Extreme Heaven Devil Emperor's cultivation was only at the tribulation passing stage. The 3 transcending tribulation immortal venerables joined forces and found 2 other transcending tribulation immortal venerables as helpers. One of them was Profound Heaven Immortal Venerable Yi Fan. The 5 tribulation passing stage immortal venerables besieged the Extreme Heaven Devil Emperor. The aftermath of the battle had destroyed countless planets. One should know that a celestial venerable in the tribulation passing stage could easily shatter a planet like the Blue Planet with a single punch. One could imagine the impact caused by the battle of 6 tribulation passing stage immortal venerables. However, what Yi Fan and the others did not expect was that the Extreme Heaven Devil Emperor was much more powerful than they had expected. After a fierce battle, the Extreme Heaven Devil Emperor died with great regret. However, Yi Fan's side also paid a heavy price. Among the 5 tribulation passing stage immortal venerables, Profound Heaven Immortal Venerable Yi Fan was severely injured and only fully recovered after 10 years of rest. As for the other 4 tribulation passing stage immortal venerables, one died. One lost half of his cultivation level, and the other 2 suffered irreversible injuries and would never be able to reach the Tao unification stage again. After the extreme heaven devil emperor died, Yi Fan, who had the lightest injuries, took care of the aftermath. Tribulation passing stage immortal venerables usually had a dojo. This dojo was at least a planetary sector, or it could be many planetary sectors. There were countless planets in a planetary sector. Yi Fan was going to the extreme heaven devil emperor's dojo to deal with the possible threats. During the search, Yi Fan killed all of the extreme heaven devil emperor's disciples and all of the extreme heaven devil emperor's Tao companions. The extreme heaven devil emperor did not have many disciples, less than 10. It was easy to deal with them. However, the extreme heaven devil emperor had a terrifying number of Tao companions. As Yi Fan dealt with them, he did a rough calculation and found that there were at least 30 million of them. 30 million Tao companions. Yi Fan was shocked at that time. However, he did not show any mercy and killed all of them. This was because the extreme heaven devil emperor's cultivation method was too terrifying. More importantly, the extreme heaven devil emperor had risen in a shorter time than any of the immortal venerables. Not only was the cultivation speed fast, but it was also very strong. Yi Fan was, of course, curious about this. When he was dealing with the threats, he even extracted the memories of the extreme heaven devil emperor's disciples and Tao companions and obtained the extreme heaven devil emperor's cultivation method. However, Yi Fan had already cultivated the youthful Thearcha's secret art of longevity, and his cultivation base had reached the tribulation passing stage. Naturally, he could not change his cultivation method. Moreover, it was not in line with his Tao. Other than Feng Yuruo, he had never liked any other woman. In fact, he had never been with Feng Yuruo. It could be said that he had been single for 1,000 years. It would be too difficult for him to cultivate such a cultivation method. This was because there were conditions to cultivate the extreme heaven devil emperor's cultivation method. The cultivator and the woman who cultivated the same cultivation method must love each other and have the same thoughts. The extreme heaven devil emperor had 30 million Tao companions. To a certain extent, it was not purely based on the power of his cultivation base. Being popular with women was one thing. Secondly, it was to make those women fall deeply in love with him. However, Yi Fan admitted that he was far from being able to please women. However, the existence of such a cultivation method made Yi Fan feel greatly threatened. The tragic situation of the 5 immortal venerables fighting the extreme heaven devil emperor had just passed. Yi Fan definitely did not want another extreme heaven devil emperor to appear. Therefore, Yi Fan killed everyone who knew about the devil emperor's internal scripture. He wanted to make the devil emperor's internal scripture disappear forever. However, he neglected one point, which was that he had read the devil emperor's internal scripture himself. Cultivators in the Qi refinement stage had a photographic memory, let alone immortal venerables in the tribulation passing stage. Yi Fan knew about the devil emperor's internal scripture, so he naturally remembered all the contents. And Wang Haoren obtained Yi Fan's memory, so he also obtained the devil emperor's internal scripture. After Wang Haoren finished reading the entire devil emperor's internal scripture, the joy in his heart was indescribable. Because this devil emperor's internal scripture was just too suitable for him to cultivate. Firstly, the devil emperor's internal scripture did not require cultivation talent. Even mortals could cultivate it. Secondly, he was very loving, and it was easy for girls to fall in love with him. This was in line with the devil emperor's internal scriptures, conditions of mutual love and telepathy. Thirdly, it was not limited by the external spirit Qi environment. Most cultivation methods were to absorb spirit Qi into one's body. In an environment like the cerulean planet, where spirit Qi was thin, the progress of one's cultivation would be very slow if one used conventional cultivation methods to cultivate. Yi Fan was currently using conventional methods, which were limited by the external spirit Qi environment. Otherwise, the progress would not be so slow. Yifan had already gone through the qi refinement stage to the tribulation passing stage. Naturally, he had a lot of cultivation experience. If he was in a place with abundant spirit qi, he would definitely not be at the 5th level of qi refinement stage. Fourthly, Wang Haoren did not have the weird habit of snatching other people's partners like the extreme Heaven Devil Emperor. Even if he did, he would not do it openly, so he would not be surrounded. This Devil Emperor's internal scripture was completely tailor-made for him. As long as he cultivated well and kept a low profile, he would definitely become stronger step by step. Even the Tao integration stage was within his reach. Chapter 576. Now that he had a suitable cultivation method, Wang Haoren naturally wanted to start cultivating as soon as possible. This was also the reason why Wang Haoren didn't want to stay overnight at Zhuqiu's house, because he wanted to sort out Yifan's memory and find a suitable cultivation method for himself. However, even if he found the method, he couldn't cultivate it alone. He needed someone to cooperate with him. At present, in Sangzhou, the two partners that Wang Haoren could think of were undoubtedly Ning Aoxue and Zhuqiu Luoyan. However, although Zhuqiu Luoyan was in her 20s, she looked a little young and felt a little guilty. Moreover, she was in Ning's house now. He couldn't go to Zhuqiu's house in the middle of the night to find her, right? Wang Haoren directly set Ning Aoxue as his primary target. Thinking of this, he planned to leave the room to trick Ning Aoxue. However, just as he was about to get up, he suddenly heard footsteps outside. Wang Haoren opened his X-ray vision and found that it was Ning Aoxue. Judging from the direction that Ning Aoxue was walking, she seemed to be coming towards him. Wang Haoren simply sat in the room and waited. Not long after, there was a knock on the door, accompanied by Ning Aoxue's voice. "It's me. Is it convenient for me to come in?" "The door is not closed. Please come in." Wang Haoren sat at a table in the bedroom and replied. Ning Aoxue opened the door and walked in. She walked to the stool at the table gracefully and sat down opposite Wang Haoren. She asked with concern, "You just came to Sangzhou. Are you used to living and eating here?" "It's quite good." Wang Haoren smiled and said, "There are so many delicious dishes in the evening, all of which are to my liking. As for the living environment, there is nothing to be picky about. The environment is quiet and the decoration of the room is extremely luxurious. Of course, these are only secondary. More importantly," while speaking, Wang Haoren couldn't help but stare at Ning Aoxue's eyes and continued, "More importantly, I have beauties to accompany me. If possible, I really want to stay here for the rest of my life." Ning Aoxue was stunned, and her face blushed little by little. She was so shy that she didn't dare to look straight into Wang Haoren's eyes. Ding! The host has touched the heart of the female lead, Ning Aoxue. Reward: 900 villain points. It's great that you're satisfied here. I thought you wouldn't be used to it. Ning Aoxue lowered her eyes and said softly. Actually, she knew that Wang Haoren's words sounded like he was trying to please her. After all, Qingling had another woman waiting for him. Would he really stay in Tsang province forever? The answer was of course impossible. But even so, Ning Aoxue was still very happy when she heard this. Except for a small number of special women, most women like sweet talk. Even if they knew it was to coax, they would still be happy. Ning Aoxue lowered her head shyly. She was so nervous that her fingers inadvertently played with the corner of her clothes. Wang Haoren didn't pursue the topic because he was afraid that he would scare her if he said it directly. After all, Ning Aoxue's favorability was only 50 at present. Therefore, Wang Haoren planned to give her a little buffer time and guide her patiently. Suddenly, he changed the topic. With your current genuine qi cultivation, you're not far from the great grandmaster of transforming strength, right? Speaking of this topic, Ning Aoxue's nervousness suddenly dissipated a little. She raised her eyes and looked at Wang Haoren. Currently, my genuine qi cultivation is close to 90 years. I could become a great grandmaster of transforming strength in 1 year or 1.5 years. If I remember correctly, you're only 19 years old. No wonder you're the most favored girl in Tsang province. Wang Haoren flattered. Compared with you, I'm still far behind. Ning Aoxue shook her head in shame and then guessed. Your genuine qi cultivation should be between 120 and 150 years, right? Wang Haoren smiled and didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stretched out his hand with his palm facing up. Ning Aoshue understood. She stretched out her hand shyly and put it on Wang Haoren's palm. When their palms touched, Ning Aoshue's heart suddenly beat faster. But before she could carefully feel the feelings of this man and woman, she suddenly found a surge of genuine qi surging toward her. Ning Aoshue was shocked and lost her voice. Your genuine qi cultivation should be 400 years. How is this possible? How did you cultivate? Wang Haoren kept her in suspense and didn't say it directly. Instead, he asked, 1.5 years is too long. Do you want to improve your genuine qi cultivation as soon as possible and become a great grandmaster of transforming strength? Of course. Ning Aoshue answered subconsciously. Then she said with some disbelief, You have a way to help me? Yes, and this method won't cause any bottlenecks in your cultivation. It can even help you reach the peak of martial arts. Ning Aoshue didn't believe that Wang Haoren directly said that he was going to cultivate without any evidence. Therefore, she lowered her expectations. However, as a martial artist, she still had endless yearning for the peak of martial arts. Ning Aoshue was no exception, but she was still a little worried. This method of cultivation should have side effects, right? Wang Haoren was silent for a few seconds before he nodded. This kind of cultivation method is very beneficial to you and me. Of course, the one who benefits the most is me. But for you, while you can gain benefits, you will also lose something with side effects. Ning Aoshue was still relatively naive. She didn't understand the deep meaning and asked like a curious baby. Yes. Wang Haoren kept her in suspense again, which made Ning Aoshue very anxious. Suddenly, he shook his head and sighed. Forget it. It's too difficult to talk about. Let's not talk about it. It doesn't matter. Just say it. Ning Aoshue was more curious and kept asking. Alas, to be honest, if I didn't encounter a strong enemy, I would never tell you this kind of thing. Wang Haoren looked helpless. You have 400 years of genuine qi cultivation. I'm afraid no one in this world can compete with you, right? Will there be a strong enemy? Ning Aoshue was surprised and worried. There is always someone better than you. 400 years of genuine qi cultivation is very strong in your eyes, but it's still far from being invincible in the world. Wang Haoren said. Ning Aoshue thought for a while and then said seriously, In this case, you can say it directly. No matter what side effects it is, I can bear them. No matter what side effects it is, are you willing to accept them? Wang Haoren asked Ning Aoshue again as if to confirm. Yes, no matter what side effects it is, I have no problem. Ning Aoshue first answered affirmatively. Then she was a little nervous and couldn't help but ask, No, won't it kill me directly? Of course not. Wang Haoren shook his head. Will it cause my body to be disabled? Ning Aoshue asked again. To some extent, it will indeed cause some part of your body to be disabled, but this is what many women have to go through. Wang Haoren said. Hearing this, Ning Aoshue showed a thoughtful expression, but she was still confused and couldn't understand. Is there such a thing? What is it? Wang Haoren secretly thought that Ning Aoshue's comprehension ability was a little too poor, but it was understandable. She focused on martial arts cultivation and was indeed a little ignorant. If it was a girl of Ning Aoshue's age who grew up normally in the city, she would have understood it in seconds. In desperation, Wang Haoren whispered to Ning Aoshue and said it directly. When the voice entered her ears, Ning Aoshue was instantly stunned. So what's your decision? Wang Haoren asked. Chapter 577. Ning Aoshue's face was bright red. Even the back of her ears and neck were obviously red. One could imagine how shy she was. After hearing Wang Haoren's question, she lowered her head, and there was a trace of resistance in her heart. However, this kind of resistance was quickly suppressed by other emotions. Wang Haoren just said clearly that there was a strong enemy threatening her, and she needed to improve her strength quickly. She didn't have time to think for so long. For example, it was impossible to reply in a few days or half a month. She had to make a decision as soon as possible. If we cultivate together, will you treat me well in the future? Ning Aoshue asked carefully. Wang Haoren grabbed Ning Aoshue's hand and stared into her eyes. Do you still need to ask? Of course. I will treat you well. After hearing this, Ning Aoshue took a deep breath and nodded to Wang Haoren as a response to his previous question. Wang Haoren smiled. After saying so much, Ning Aoshue finally agreed. Wang Haoren struck while the iron was hot and told Ning Aoshue all the cultivation methods of the female side of the inner canon of the Demon Emperor. Ning Aoshue remembered all of it and tried to understand it. This part of the cultivation method was actually very simple and easy to understand. Not to mention that Ning Aoshue had the talent for martial arts cultivation and had a good comprehension ability. Even an ordinary woman who had read a little could understand the meaning of it. After finishing the preparation work, Wang Haoren locked the room from the inside and then began to cultivate officially. Ding! The host has captured the female lead Ning Aoshue for the first time. The reward is 8,000 villain points. Ning Aoshue's female lead Halo -400, the host's villain Halo +400. Wang Haoren received the prompt message from the system. At the same time, he also started to cultivate the inner canon of the Demon Emperor. And the effect was also obvious. This kind of cultivation method, the effect was the most obvious at the beginning. The reason was that he had obtained vitality and een. This kind of thing could only be obtained by a woman who was a blank piece of paper. Of course, Ning Aoshue did. Wang Haoren benefited a lot. Not only did his 400 years of true qi transform into spiritual qi, he reached the 4th level of the refinement stage, but he also advanced by 1 level, directly leaping to the 5th level of the refinement stage. He was at the same cultivation level as Yi Fan. Of course, Wang Haoren did not think that he could win against Yi Fan. Although he had replicated Yi Fan's memories and obtained Yi Fan's knowledge, and even combat experience, Yi Fan's strength was not as strong as before. Yi Fan was indeed at the 5th level of the Qi refining stage, but his soul was at the level of an immortal sovereign. Although his soul was a lot weaker due to his rebirth, it was only weak in comparison to a normal person. Yi Fan possessed soul power and knew some soul attack techniques. Although he was only at the 5th level of Qi refining, he was able to kill enemies above his level. It was a standard setting for the main character to kill enemies above their level. Wang Haoren was well aware of this. Thus, he would naturally not go and cause trouble for Yi Fan at a time like this. Of course, now that he had reached 50% of the Qi refining stage, he could protect himself. He was no longer as afraid of Yi Fan as before, and there were more things that he could do. This was because Wang Haoren's true combat power had already surpassed the peak of the martial Dao, the land human immortal. And with the foundation of 50% of the Qi refining stage, he could also practice some of the immortal martial arts in Yi Fan's memory. Wang Haoren was happy for a while. Then he focused on Ning Aoshue. Ning Aoshue also benefited a lot. She originally only had 90 years of true Qi cultivation, but now she had become a neutralizing grandmaster, and her true Qi cultivation was not exactly 100 years, but 120 years. After this cultivation, Ning Aoshue directly increased her true Qi cultivation by more than 30 years. At first, Ning Aoshue was a little dispirited because of the first wind and rain, but after discovering this, she immediately became energetic. I'm not dreaming, right? This increase is too big, right? Ning Aoshue said in disbelief. Whether it's a dream or not, you can feel it carefully. Wang Haoren smiled. When Ning Aoshue heard this, she paused and seemed to really feel it. Soon, she was completely sure that this was definitely not a dream. And the way to judge was a little similar to pinching herself to see if it would hurt. Of course, Ning Aoshue did not pinch herself, but she did feel pain. Ning Aoshue was originally a little disappointed, but now it was completely overshadowed by joy. If she cultivated normally, it would take her about 3 years to increase her true Qi by more than 30 years. But now, a simple hour was equivalent to 3 years of hard work. This cultivation came too easily, and all of this was thanks to Wang Haoren. Thinking of this, Ning Aoshue looked at Wang Haoren with a much gentler gaze. Ding. Ning Aoshue's favorability towards the host has increased by 20. Current favorability is 70. Unchanging affection. What kind of martial arts technique is this? It's too magical, Ning Aoshue exclaimed. This is not a martial arts technique, but an immortal cultivation technique. Wang Haoren felt that Ning Aoshue should not think that he was talking nonsense, so he took the opportunity to say it. Ning Aoshue was stunned for a moment. Immortal cultivation technique? Wang Haoren suddenly stretched out his hand and gently snapped his fingers. A string of flames rose from his fingers. A wave of heat came to her face. After true qi was transformed into spiritual qi, it was too easy to do this. Spiritual qi could actually be understood as a kind of magical energy in the universe. Flames, on the other hand, were actually a form of energy. Wang Haoren just catalyzed the spiritual qi into flames. And besides catalyzing flames, spiritual qi had many other magical uses. For example, spiritual qi could endlessly regenerate cells and keep them in a young state. This was the secret of immortal cultivators not aging. In addition, spiritual qi could also heal all kinds of injuries and accelerate the recovery of the body. For example, if Wang Haoren used a small knife to cut the skin and then used spiritual qi to heal the wound, the speed of healing could be clearly seen by the naked eye. In less than 10 seconds, the wound would heal and form a scab without leaving any scars. Ning Aoshue looked at the flame on Wang Haoren's fingertips and was surprised and happy. Naturally, she believed Wang Haoren's words. Some martial arts could also catalyze true qi into flames, but that kind of flame was completely different from Wang Haoren's. Ning Aoshue was very close to it. She could clearly feel what kind of power was contained in this seemingly small flame. She had no doubt that if she was burned by this flame, she would certainly turn into ashes in a moment. So you are an immortal cultivator. Ning Aoshue could finally understand why Wang Haoren was so strong at such a young age. As long as you and I practice well, you can also become an immortal cultivator. Wang Haoren saw the yearning deep in Ning Aoshue's eyes, so he said with a smile, "Really? I could do it too." Ning Aoshue said in surprise, "Take a closer look. You should be able to see some changes in your Jinqi," Wang Haoren reminded him. Hearing this, Ning Aoshue immediately ran her true qi and soon found that her true qi was purer than before. Then how long will it take for me to become an immortal cultivator? Ning Aoshue asked expectantly. It depends on how hard you practice. The harder you work, the faster your progress will be. Wang Haoren looked at Ning Aoshue with a smile. Ning Aoshue understood, and the blush on her face rose again in an instant. Chapter 578. The next day, it was late in the morning. Old Zhuqiu visited Ning's family in person and told Ning's father that the top 10 martial arts conference was canceled. The current master of Ning's family was Ning Aoshue. Ning's father asked the maid to inform Ning Aoshue to come here. However, the news he got was that Ning Aoshue didn't go back to her room to sleep last night. Ning's father could only agree on behalf of Ning Aoshue. After all, he had prepared before. After hearing old Zhuqiu's words, he had no reason to object. After sending old Zhuqiu away, Ning's father wanted to tell Wang Haoren about it. He asked the maid where Wang Haoren went. Ning's father learned that Wang Haoren didn't have breakfast and didn't seem to wake up. He was a little puzzled, because he didn't think Wang Haoren was the kind of lazy person who liked to sleep in. It was really strange that he didn't get up at this time. Thinking of this, Ning's father went to Wang Haoren's room to have a look. However, when he just came to Wang Haoren's room, he was about to knock on the door. The door suddenly opened automatically. It was Ning Aoshue who opened the door. It seemed that she was about to come out. Ning Aoshue's black hair was a little messy, which obviously didn't seem to be tidied up. If Ning Aoshue came to see Wang Haoren, it didn't seem to make sense. Ning Aoshue didn't have the habit of being slovenly. She looked like she just got up. Ning's father looked at her carefully and saw his daughter's radiant face. He immediately thought of something. Ning Aoshue was in a good mood and didn't pay attention to the movement outside. After pushing the door and walking out, she found that Ning's father was outside. "Father, Ning Aoshue was startled and looked flustered. Ning's father increasingly felt that his guess was correct. He looked over Ning Aoshue and looked at Wang Haoren in the room. He saw that Wang Haoren just got up and was putting on clothes. A burst of anger rose from Ning's father's heart. Although he acquiesced Wang Haoren to get close to his daughter, he didn't expect that it would progress so fast. His Ning family was a prestigious martial arts family in Sangzhou. Ning Aoshue was the only daughter of Father Ning and was also an influential figure in Sangzhou. Even if Wang Haoren wanted to reach this stage with his daughter, he needed to at least give his daughter a status first. "Good morning, Uncle Ning." Wang Haoren calmly put on his clothes and greeted Ning Aoshue's father with a smile. However, Father Ning couldn't laugh at all. "I treat you as a guest, provide you with good food and accommodation, and even acquiesce in my daughter's relationship with you. But you are too much. How dare you treat Aoshue?" Halfway through his words, Father Ning felt a little embarrassed and snorted angrily. "Father, I did it willingly. It's not his fault." Ning Aoshue defended Wang Haoren. "Aoshue, how can you be so shameless?" Ning's father was surprised and seemed to know his daughter again, because Ning Aoshue's action completely subverted his cognition. Originally, he thought that Ning Aoshue was deceived by him half-heartedly, but Ning Aoshue's attitude and reaction clearly showed that it was not the case. Ning Aoshue was blamed by her father and blushed immediately. She couldn't refute it all. Father Ning flicked his sleeves angrily and looked at Wang Haoren. "When are you going to marry Aoshue this year?" Since it had happened, Father Ning could only try his best to make up for it. "Of course I have this plan, but I'm afraid not this year." Wang Haoren shook his head. Last night, when they were intimate, he and Ning Aoshue discussed this matter. Ning Aoshue expressed that she would listen to everything he said. This matter must be done within this year. Father Ning insisted. "Sorry, I can't do it, and you don't have to be so excited. I just gave Aoshue some guidance in her cultivation. It's not like what you think." Wang Haoren fooled him with a half-truth, but he didn't believe it himself. Father Ning naturally didn't believe it. "Give Aoshue some guidance in her cultivation? Do you think I'm a fool?" Father Ning was so angry that he directly attacked Wang Haoren. Ning Aoshue had been watching her father's action. After seeing this scene, she flashed in front of Wang Haoren and hit her father's palm. When the two palms met, Father Ning kept stepping back, and the floor under his feet was also cracked inch by inch. Father Ning turned pale with fright. His cultivation was only one step away from the great grandmaster of transforming strength, which was a little stronger than Ning Aoshue's cultivation. However, when their palms met, he clearly felt that his daughter's cultivation was far above his own. "Father, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it." Father Ning also did this in a hurry. When he saw his father's face was slightly pale because of his palm, he immediately stepped forward and apologized. Father Ning was not angry, nor did he scold Ning Aoshue for being a disobedient daughter. Instead, he asked in horror, "Aoshue, what's wrong with your cultivation?" "Father, I'm already a great grandmaster of transforming strength. My cultivation of genuine qi is about 130 years. Ning Aoshue explained. "That's impossible. How can your cultivation progress so fast?" Father Ning asked in disbelief, looking at Wang Haoren subconsciously. Just now, Wang Haoren said that he gave Aoshue some guidance in her cultivation. Was it true? "It's all thanks to Haoren that my cultivation can progress so fast." Ning Aoshue pursed her lips and explained nervously and shyly. "Tell me what's going on." Father Ning's gaze towards Wang Haoren became softer as he asked his daughter. Ning Aoshue found it difficult to speak, so she didn't want to say it clearly, so she said vaguely, "Anyway, it's Haoren who gave me guidance. You don't need to ask more. Besides, his cultivation is far above mine, even to the point that you can't imagine." "The point that you can't imagine? Is he a great grandmaster of elixir strength? Or a great grandmaster of elixir strength? Or a great grandmaster of gang strength?" After hearing his daughter's words, Father Ning boldly guessed. Don't ask. Don't ask." Father Ning didn't entangle with this matter. His face was beaming with joy, and the anger just now disappeared in an instant. Looking at Wang Haoran, he felt that the more he looked at him, the more pleasing he felt. He said kindly, "Haoran, since you are giving guidance to Aoshua, you can continue. I won't disturb you. You can go on." With that, Father Ning walked out with a warm smile on his face. When he left, he even closed the door behind him. Ning Aoshua was speechless when she saw her father's change of face. "I'm going back to my room." Ning Aoshua smoothed her slightly messy black hair and said softly to Wang Haoran, "Didn't your father say that he wanted me to give you guidance? You want me to guide you in your cultivation? Since that's the case, I'll guide you again." Wang Haoran winked at her. Ning Aoshua panicked and wanted to escape, but her feet seemed to be nailed to the ground and didn't move. She practiced martial arts. After all, she was not a flower in a greenhouse. After experiencing a little wind and rain, she couldn't bear it. Ning Aoshua was quite able to bear hardships in her cultivation. In fact, there was joy in the bitterness. It could even be said that compared with the joy, the bitterness was too insignificant. Chapter 579. While Wang Haoran was busy cultivating, Yi Fan was standing in front of Yunyan Lake in Sangzhou with his hands behind his back. "Grandmaster Yi, I don't know why, but the meeting of the top 10 martial arts families was suddenly canceled. They seem to have given up on teaming up to deal with you." A middle-aged man behind Yi Fan reported respectfully. The middle-aged man was the master of a martial arts school in Sangzhou. His name was Yin Shi. He had previously provoked Yi Fan and was intimidated by Yi Fan. He submitted and followed Yi Fan everywhere. Yi Fan did not like to deal with those trivial matters, so he naturally did not object to having Yin Shi as his subordinate. After hearing Yin Shi's report, Yi Fan's eyes flickered slightly. Then, he regained his composure. "So be it," Yi Fan said calmly. "Grandmaster Yi, what's your plan? Are you going to look for trouble with them?" Yin Shi asked. "They're not worthy." Yi Fan's voice was calm and emotionless. From the beginning to the end, he had never taken the top 10 martial arts families seriously. If the top 10 martial arts families really gathered to discuss how to deal with him, he would definitely make a trip there. However, now that the top 10 martial arts families had canceled the meeting, he would not look for them one by one. They were just a bunch of ants. Were they worthy of the profound heaven, celestial, venerable, personally looking for trouble with them? Yes. Yin Shi nodded respectfully. Then, he asked carefully, "Grandmaster Yi, do you have any other orders?" "I plan to go to Cheongzhou." "Help me arrange it," Yi Fan said. "Go to Cheongzhou?" Yin Shi was stunned. He was curious, but did not ask further. "Yes, I'll arrange it as soon as possible." Yi Fan did not turn back to look at Yin Shi. He only raised his hand gently and made a gesture. Yin Shi understood and left quietly. Yi Fan looked at the vast Yunyan Lake. His eyes flickered and he lost his usual calmness. Cheongzhou was where she lived. She was currently in her 3rd year of high school. When he was about to see her again after 1,000 years, even with the profound heaven, celestial, venerable state of mind, he could not remain calm. "In this life, I will never let you down. I will not let the tragedy in my previous life happen. I will make you the happiest and most dazzling woman in the world." Yi Fan looked at the vast Yunyan Lake and muttered to himself. Ding! The host manipulated behind the scenes, causing the cancellation of the Tsang province's 10 great martial arts aristocratic families meeting, greatly affecting the direction of the plot. The reward is 6,000 villain points, Yi Fan's protagonist aura minus 300, and the host's villain aura plus 300. Wang Haoran looked at the system message he had just received, deep in thought. Old Man Zwichio had started to lobby the various aristocratic families yesterday. It seemed that his efficiency was pretty good. In the end, Yi Fan's stage was destroyed by him. Wang Haoran had originally guessed that after Yi Fan showed off at the meeting of the top 10 martial arts families in Sangzhou, the storyline in Sangzhou would basically end. Next, he would probably leave the Tsang state. Wang Haoran had copied Yi Fan's memories, so he had some understanding of Yi Fan's way of doing things. He immediately put himself in Yi Fan's shoes and thought about what he would do at this moment. Soon, Wang Haoran thought of a possibility. If he was Yi Fan, he would most likely look for Fang Yuruo. After Wang Haoran finished cultivating with Ning Aoshua, He immediately went to the Zhuqiu family and told Old Man Zhuqiu that he had to rush back to Qingling as soon as possible. Old Man Zhuqiu was anxious to see Zhuqiu Qinyu, so he naturally agreed immediately. Zhuqiu Luoyin also wanted to see her sister, so she wanted to go with him to Qingling. When he returned to the Ning family again, Wang Haoren said goodbye to Father Ning. "Good son-in-law, are you going back so soon?" Father Ning did not regard him as an outsider at all and called him in advance. Ning Aoshue, who was next to him, subconsciously covered her face. She only felt that her father was so embarrassing. Wang Haoren was stunned for a moment. Then he said to Father Ning, "I have something important to do back to Qingling." "Well, I won't keep you any longer." Father Ning nodded. "Father, I also have to go to Qingling to deal with some things." Ning Aoshue suddenly said. How could Father Ning not understand his daughter's thoughts? But he did not point it out. "Then you can go with Haoren, and you will have a companion on the way. Your father's health is still very good, so you don't need to worry about the Ning family for the time being." "Thank you, Father," Ning Aoshue said happily. After the discussion, Wang Haoren had lunch in the Ning family and set off in the afternoon. Ning Aoshue was a little surprised to see that Zhuqiu Luoyin and Zhuqiu Luoyin were also with them. However, Ning Aoshue did not say anything. Now that she had established a relationship with Wang Haoren, she thought that she was better than Zhuqiu Luoyin. Even if Zhuqiu Luoyin came, she should be behind her, right? Moreover, she was a woman who understood the big picture. Since Wang Haoren asked Zhuqiu Luoyin and Zhuqiu Luoyin to follow him, there must be something else. Otherwise, he might only take Zhuqiu Luoyin alone. After 1 or 2 hours, Wang Haoren and others came to Qingling. "I'm going to take them to a place. You go home first," Wang Haoren said to Ning Aoshue. Hearing the word home, Ning Aoshue felt a sense of belonging in her heart. Her eyes were slightly curved into a crescent moon. She nodded and said, "Well, I'll wait for you at home." Zhuqiu Luoyin heard it and could not help but twitch her mouth. She secretly thought that Ning Aoshue was a vixen. Otherwise, how could they be together so quickly? It must be Ning Aoshue who took the initiative to seduce him. Wang Haoren made a phone call and asked where Zhuqiu Qinyu was. After getting a reply, he set off with Zhuqiu Luoyin and Zhuqiu Luoyin. Ning Aoshue went back to Wang Haoren's villa. Feng Xuansu was taking care of the flowers and plants in the garden leisurely. When she saw Ning Aoshue come back, she immediately asked, "Why are you back alone? Where's Haoren?" "He has something to do," Ning Aoshue replied, and walked into the villa while twisting her waist. Feng Xuansu looked at her suspiciously, because she felt that Ning Aoshue seemed to be a little different from before, but she could not tell what was different about her. Black Peony Bar. In the middle of the afternoon, the bar was very quiet and deserted. Zhuqiu Qinyu was originally in the office calculating the profit and loss of the bar this month. However, calculating was really not her strong point. After calculating for a while, she made several mistakes. She only felt that her head was about to explode. At this time, Wang Haoren suddenly called. Zhuqiu Qinyu was too lazy to do it herself. She planned to find a younger brother who was more educated to do it. In the office, there were some makeup products and clothes for her to deal with the situation of an impromptu date. She took advantage of this time to quickly apply a facial mask to moisturize and then put on makeup carefully. In fact, she did not like to put on makeup because she thought it was too troublesome. However, her boyfriend was coming, so she still wanted to show her best side to him. After putting on makeup, she also chose a red dress that showed her figure. Then she went to find a bottle of the most expensive red wine and opened it in advance to sober up the wine. After doing this, Zhuqiu Qinyu waited. Not long after, there was a knock on the door, accompanied by Wang Haoren's voice. "It's me. Can I come in?" "Wait a minute," Zhuqiu Qinyu immediately replied. She poured a glass of red wine and put it in her mouth. Because before changing clothes, Zhuqiu Qinyu had locked the door. She opened the door with a pout. Because she was too close, Wang Haoren was all she could see. She immediately leaned over and accurately passed the wine to him. After a while, Zhuqiu Qinyu took a sip of wine. Her face was rosy, and she looked at Wang Haoren with a smile. "How is it? Did I make a lot of progress?" It seemed that she wanted to ask for praise. Wang Haoran's scalp was a little numb. He secretly blamed himself for not telling Zhuqiu Chenyu the situation in advance. Zhuqiu Chenyu's reaction seemed to be that she did not know what was going on. She only thought that he had asked her to go on a date. Wang Haoran stepped aside to avoid blocking Zhuqiu Chenyu's view. At this time, Zhuqiu Chenyu finally noticed that there was an unfamiliar old man and young girl not far behind Wang Haoran. They were staring at her in shock. Chapter 580. When Zhuqiu Chenyu received Wang Haoran's call, she thought that Wang Haoran was looking for her on a date. When she opened the door, all she could see was Wang Haoran. She was so happy that she wanted to show off that she did not notice that there was someone behind her. Seeing the strange old man and young girl's expressions, Zhuqiu Chenyu knew that they must have seen what she did just now. Zhuqiu Chenyu suddenly felt so embarrassed that her scalp went numb. It was true that she was bold, but it depended on the situation. When it came to men and women, she still had the basic modesty of a woman. If there was only Wang Haoran here, Zhuqiu Chenyu would be very calm. However, there were outsiders here, so it was a different story. The atmosphere in the room was a little strange. As old man Zhuqiu and Zhuqiu Luoyan sized up Zhuqiu Chenyu, they also looked at Wang Haoran strangely. Wang Haoran had said that he and Zhuqiu Chenyu were just friends. However, what they did just now was that the behavior of ordinary friends. At the very least, they should add the word girl in front of their friends. However, old man Zhuqiu and Zhuqiu Luoyan did not dwell on this issue. Or rather, they had something important to confirm first. Young friend, is the Zhuqiu Chenyu you mentioned her? After old man Zhuqiu sized up Zhuqiu Chenyu, he found that she indeed looked very similar to Zhuqiu Luoyan. Therefore, he asked excitedly, "Yes, that's her." Wang Haoran replied affirmatively. Old man Zhuqiu almost burst into tears when he heard this. He walked closer to Zhuqiu Chenyu and opened his arms to hug his long-lost granddaughter. Zhuqiu Chenyu saw the strange old man's actions and was a little suspicious. She first warned him out of habit. "Old man, what are you doing? Are you trying to take advantage of me? Are you looking for a beating?" "Chenyu, I'm your grandfather," old man Zhuqiu said in a choked voice. "Nonsense, my grandfather died a long time ago." Zhuqiu Chenyu frowned. "Who are you?" Old man Zhuqiu was stunned and looked at Wang Haoran for help. Wang Haoran had heard some information about Zhuqiu Chenyu's past. Her grandfather was in the underworld. Zhuqiu Chenyu had been raised by her grandfather. Later on, she was forced to walk this path. After her grandfather passed away, Zhuqiu Chenyu took over the business and became a boss. At that time, Wang Haoran only thought that Zhuqiu Chenyu's grandfather was her biological grandfather. But now, it seemed that Zhuqiu Chenyu had been adopted or picked up. As for her deceased grandfather, he probably did not tell her about Zhuqiu Chenyu's past. Wang Haoran used his X-ray vision to look at the name tattoos on Zhuqiu Chenyu and Zhuqiu Luoyan's shoulders. He discovered that the words on the tattoos were exactly the same. They must have been written by the same person. However, in order to confirm, Wang Haoran still asked Zhuqiu Chenyu, "When did you get the name tattoo on your shoulder?" Hearing this, Zhuqiu Chenyu was stunned. She was somewhat curious as to how Wang Haoran knew. She never wore off-shoulder clothes. Under normal circumstances, it was reasonable to say that she would not be seen. Moreover, the two of them had not developed to the point where they could see each other openly. However, Zhuqiu Chenyu quickly recalled that when she first met Wang Haoran, he had knocked her unconscious. He must have seen it then, right? Perhaps he had not only seen her shoulder. He had also seen Zhuqiu Chenyu's face heated up. Then, with some confusion, she responded to Wang Haoran's question. "I've had it since I could remember. I don't know when it was tattooed." Old man Zhuqiu quickly added, "That's right. The children of the Zhuqiu family will have their names tattooed not long after they are born. This was tattooed by me." As he spoke, he gestured to Zhuqiu Luoyan beside him. "She is your twin sister. Your tattoo is on your left shoulder, and hers is on the right. There are twins who are more than 10 years apart." "That's ridiculous," Zhuqiu Chenyu questioned. "Her actual age is the same as yours. You should believe me, right?" Wang Haoran interrupted. Zhuqiu Chenyu subconsciously sized up Zhuqiu Luoyan carefully. She thought she was a young girl just now, so she did not look at her carefully. However, at this moment, after being reminded by Wang Haoren, he looked at her seriously again. Suddenly, she felt a sense of déjà vu. It was not that she had seen Zhuqiu Luoyin before. She felt that Zhuqiu Luoyin looked like herself when she was in her teens. Zhuqiu Qinyu thought about the distant past and felt a sense of déjà vu when she saw herself more than 10 years ago. She could not help but believe it. My name is Zhuqiu Luoyin. You are really my sister. While Zhuqiu Qinyu was sizing her up, Zhuqiu Luoyin was also staring at her. In contrast to Zhuqiu Qinyu, Zhuqiu Luoyin felt a sense of déjà vu when she grew up. Upon closer inspection, the two's facial features and silhouettes were very similar. However, Zhuqiu Luoyin was very young, and Zhuqiu Qinyu was very mature. It's not ancient times now. It's very simple to be 100% sure. Both of you could take a strand of hair each and do a DNA test. Isn't that enough? Wang Haoren suggested. That's a good idea. Zhuqiu Luoyin nodded in agreement. Okay. Zhuqiu Qinyu naturally did not object. After the discussion, Wang Haoren took them directly to Tianhui Clinic. Under normal circumstances, it would take a while for a DNA test to be done at a formal institution. The main reason was that there were not enough people and so on. After all, a professional DNA testing institution could not serve just one person. Usually, after the sampling, the results would only be out after half a month or even a month. However, the Wang family had acquaintances in Tianhui Clinic. They had the most professional team here. The results would be out in about an hour. The DNA comparison showed that there was a 99% chance that Zhuqiu Qinyu and Zhuqiu Luoyin were sisters. Due to the rigor of medicine, the results of the DNA test were almost not 100% certain. However, with a 99% chance, it was already confirmed that the two were sisters. After confirming that they were related by blood, the next step was the family reunion. Seeing that his task was completed, Wang Haoren did not stay to witness the joy of the family reunion. Instead, he chose to leave temporarily. The situation in Sangzhou had stabilized. Yifan would probably go to find Fang Yurua. Wang Haoren wanted to race against time with Yifan, so he did not want to waste any more time. To deal with Yifan, Fang Yurua was the most important. After leaving Tianhui Clinic, Wang Haoren directly embarked on the journey to Cheongzhou. In order to save time, Wang Haoren took a plane this time. Previously, because he was practicing martial arts, he felt that it would be very dangerous if he had an accident on a plane. But now, he did not have to worry too much about this problem. He was now a cultivator. Although he was only at the 5th level of the Qi refinement realm, he would definitely not die if he fell from a high altitude. Of course, broken tendons and bones might be unavoidable. But this was not a big problem. With the treatment of spiritual energy, he could recover quickly and there would be no sequelae. Besides, the probability of an accident was very small. In order to get to Cheongzhou before Yifan, he could still take this small risk. 2 or 3 hours later, Wang Haoren successfully set foot on the land of Cheongzhou. Now that the holiday was over, the students had started classes as usual. Relying on the memory copied from Yifan, Wang Haoren came to the middle school where Fang Yurua studied. Chapter 581. Wang Haoren stood outside the school and looked at the situation with his X-ray vision. It was almost evening and the afternoon class had just ended. The students were preparing to go to the cafeteria for dinner. As far as the eye could see, there were simply too many people. Trying to find one person among them was not something that could be done in a short period of time. Wang Haoren planned to go inside and take a look. There were school security guards guarding the gate, prohibiting outsiders from entering. However, this was not a problem for Wang Haoren at all. This place was so big. There had to be a wall, right? Did he have to enter through the gate? What's more, he was a cultivator in the Qi refinement realm. To him, a wall was not much different from a normal wall. He quietly entered the school. Wang Haoren was a freshman, and he was not dressed in fancy clothes. He looked very much like a student, and it was not out of place for him to blend in with the third-year students. The only problem was that his appearance was too outstanding and eye-catching. Some students looked at him from time to time, as if they were curious about who this person was. Such a handsome boy couldn't be unknown in the school, right? However, he was too unfamiliar, and no one had seen him before. Wang Haoran could not help but feel a little depressed when he saw the way the people around him were looking at him. He just wanted to keep a low profile and come in to look for someone, but he was still noticed. Fortunately, no one thought that he was a bad person when they saw him and informed the security guards to drive him away. It was not a good idea to keep looking for her. Wang Haoran found a girl who looked like she was in her 3rd year of high school and asked if she knew which class Fang Yuruo was in. He had already determined that Fang Yuruo was the female lead. Since she was the female lead, how could she be an unknown character? Wang Haoran didn't even need to think to know that Fang Yuruo was the school belle. Since she was the school belle, she must be very famous. Sure enough, after asking the girl, she immediately told him. The girl's mentality was also very simple. Since this handsome guy asked her, she would answer truthfully. She did not think that he was a bad person and was not on guard against him. After Wang Haoran got the answer, he thanked the girl and smiled at her. The girl was so fascinated that she couldn't come back to her senses for a long time after Wang Haoran left. Wang Haoran's appearance was already very outstanding. Coupled with his charm aura, he was extremely lethal to girls. When he arrived at Fang Yuruo's class, Wang Haoran glanced around but didn't see Fang Yuruo. He guessed that she must have gone to eat. Wang Haoran stood in the corridor outside the classroom and waited. After some time, Fang Yuruo and a girl walked towards the classroom from a distant corridor, talking and laughing. Fang Yuruo was the 3rd femme fatale that Wang Haoran had seen. After all, she was the single female lead of the Xian Zunsheng Lu. Her appearance, figure, and temperament were the 3 best. There was almost no flaw to be found. She was simply perfect. However, compared to Feng Xuansu and Tantai Yaoyue, Fang Yuruo lacked the charm of an adult woman. This was not because Fang Yuruo was inferior to Feng Xuansu and Tantai Yaoyue. Instead, it was because of her age. Fang Yuruo was still a few months away from reaching 18 years old. She still had a touch of immaturity and purity. However, it was precisely because of this immaturity and purity that she had a kind of attraction that Feng Xuansu and Tantai Yaoyue did not have. Wang Haoran's vision was far away. He saw Fang Yuruo from afar, but Fang Yuruo hadn't seen him yet. Seeing that Fang Yuruo was getting closer and closer, he retracted his gaze. Wang Haoran stood next to the classroom door. If Fang Yuruo wanted to enter the classroom, she would definitely see him. Wang Haoran didn't deliberately look at Fang Yuruo at this time. He just stood quietly in the corridor at the door, pretending to be looking at the scenery downstairs, lost in thought. When Fang Yuruo came here, she noticed Wang Haoran. She couldn't help but cast a few more glances at him. No matter what kind of girl she was, when she saw a good-looking boy, she would inadvertently look at him. This was just like when a man saw a beautiful woman. He would also inadvertently cast a glance at her. Of course, there might also be men who didn't look at beautiful women, but such men were either pretending to be serious or there was something wrong with them. Fang Yuruo's gaze was calm. She only looked at him with an appreciative attitude. She was far from being infatuated. After a few more glances, Fang Yuruo naturally withdrew her gaze and walked into the classroom with the female classmate. Wang Haoran couldn't help but sigh. The reason why he was standing here was to show his face in front of Fang Yuruo. This super peach blossom halo was really getting more and more useless. At the critical moment, it didn't trigger the halo effect. If the effect was triggered, then the problem would be much simpler. But now that it wasn't triggered, the plan needed to be changed. Under normal circumstances, the female lead was a very difficult character to deal with. In addition, she was a villain. If he wanted to pursue her, it wouldn't be something that could be done in a short time. Wang Haoran was sure that the speed at which he pursued Fang Yuruo would definitely not be as fast as Yifan's speed in reaching Qiongzhou. After thinking for a while, he decided not to pursue Fang Yuruo for the time being, because if he didn't handle it well, Yifan might find out about it. Although Wang Haoran wasn't very afraid of Yifan now, he didn't want to have a head-on conflict with him. Although Yifan didn't care about ants, when it came to his true love, Fang Yuruo, Yifan had a special set of rules. This could probably be described as a dragon has a reverse scale. Anyone who touches it will die. For example, After Fong Yuruo died in his previous life, Yi Fan went crazy and slaughtered all the life on a planet. Among them, many innocent lives suffered because of this. From this point, it could be seen that Yi Fan was very extreme when it came to Fong Yuruo. Before he had absolute confidence that he could completely destroy Yi Fan, Wang Haoren didn't want to alert the enemy. Wang Haoren could protect himself if he faced Yi Fan head-on, but he couldn't guarantee that the people around him wouldn't be hurt. If something happened, he could run, but Wang Xiang, Zhun Li, and the female leads who were with him wouldn't be able to run away. Don't think that the protagonist, Yi Fan, would have kindness in his heart. For living immortal cultivators, the word kindness almost didn't exist in their dictionary. Why did he say that? Because the kind immortal cultivators were all dead. When one's strength reached a certain level, one could ignore the rules. The law of the jungle was vividly reflected in the cultivation world. In short, the world of immortal cultivators was a world of cannibalism. Kind immortal cultivators couldn't survive at all, because the person who called you brother in 1 second might kill you in the next. Yi Fan had experienced too many things to be able to become a celestial supremacy in the tribulation stage. His hands were stained with countless blood. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe him as Old Demon Yi. Celestial supremacies who had reached the tribulation stage almost never had clean hands. The only difference was that some celestial supremacies did it neatly and didn't leave any traces to be criticized. For example, celestial supremacy Xiantian was very respected in everyone's eyes. This was also one of the reasons why the 3 celestial supremacies whose partners had been snatched away went to ask Yi Fan for help. In fact, what they didn't know was that Yi Fan was very scheming. 5 celestial supremacies besieged the extreme Heaven Demon Emperor, but Yi Fan was the least injured. Only Wang Haoren, who had replicated Yi Fan's memories, knew the real reason. Chapter 582. The 5 celestial supremacies had paid a heavy price to attack the extreme Heaven Demon Emperor. The extreme Heaven Demon Emperor was only one of the reasons. The other reason was that Yi Fan had chosen to go easy on them at the critical moment. Thus, one of the celestial supremacies had died, and the other 3 were severely injured. If Yi Fan had used his full strength, the situation might have been different. At the very least, that celestial supremacy would not have died. It was common knowledge in the cultivation world that there would only be one Tao integration cultivator in the universe. Under normal circumstances, all tribulation transcendence cultivators had the chance to reach Tao integration. From this point of view, all tribulation transcendence, celestial supremacies were rivals. Yi Fan's action had not only eliminated 4 of his rivals, but he had also obtained most of the extreme Heaven Demon Emperor's cultivation resources. After all, Yi Fan had been the least injured and had gone to deal with the aftermath of the extreme Heaven Demon Emperor's death. While Yi Fan had eliminated the hidden dangers, he had also taken most of the extreme Heaven Demon Emperor's cultivation resources for himself. This was also one of the reasons why Yi Fan could reach Tao integration so quickly. Respected celestial supremacy Yi, sinister and cunning Old Demon Yi. These words could almost be used to describe Yi Fan's cultivation life from a mortal on the cerulean planet to a tribulation transcendence celestial supremacy. Of course, from Yi Fan's point of view, this was not wrong. Wang Haoren even agreed with this set of rules. Only someone with Yi Fan's personality and way of doing things would be able to survive in the immortal cultivation world like a fish in water. He was even close to reaching Tao integration. In other urban cultivation novels, some celestial emperors or celestial supremacies were extremely wretched when they returned. They could not move when they saw beautiful women and even lick them. Was this how celestial emperors and celestial supremacies should be? They were King naughty. This was just too ridiculous. Yi Fan's behavior was normal. Wang Haoren secretly complained for a while before he used his X-ray vision to look at Fong Yuruo in the classroom. Only then did he leave reluctantly. Fong Yuruo was indeed the female lead in the returning celestial supremacy genre. There was nothing to complain about. Even though Wang Haoren was experienced, he was still drooling over her. After leaving the school, Wang Haoran did not return to Qingling. Instead, he found a place to stay and waited for Yi Fan's arrival. After copying Yi Fan's memories, Wang Haoran was able to accurately predict Yi Fan's actions. In Wang Haoran's opinion, it was true that Yi Fan had come to look for Fang Yuehua, but he might not necessarily pursue her immediately. In his previous life, the reason why Fang Yuehua got to know Yi Fan was because of a melodramatic plot of a hero saving a damsel in distress in university. It was Fang Yuehua who was stopped and teased, and Yi Fan acted bravely. However, Yi Fan was just an ordinary person at that time. Although he succeeded in saving the damsel in distress, he was beaten up so badly that he had to lie in the hospital for 2 to 3 months. Fang Yuehua was grateful and took care of Yi Fan during this period of time. As time passed, she secretly fell in love with Yi Fan. At that time, Yi Fan had some guesses, but he wasn't sure. He could only ask Fang Yuehua what kind of boy she liked. Fang Yuehua was thin-skinned. How could she say it out loud? In fact, due to a girl's stubbornness and shyness, she said the opposite and said that she liked handsome guys. Yi Fan was silly at that time and believed it after hearing it. Coupled with the fact that he was introverted, he was naturally dealt a huge blow and did not dare to confess to Fang Yuehua. On the other hand, how could a girl like Fang Yuehua take the initiative? The two people who liked each other hid their own thoughts just like that. This also laid the groundwork for the tragic ending in Yi Fan's previous life. When Yi Fan finally realized this, it was already a few months later. A cooling-off period of a few months was enough for a girl who had just fallen in love to lose most of her passion. At this time, Yi Fan went to look for Fang Yuehua again and found that her attitude was much colder than before. Fang Yuehua also had a handsome suitor by her side. When Yi Fan saw this, he naturally couldn't help but recall that Fang Yuehua had once said that she liked handsome guys. Yi Fan was dealt a huge blow again, but he pretended to be strong on the surface, so his attitude was very cold. Seeing Yi Fan's attitude, Fang Yuehua was very disappointed. She didn't even explain to Yi Fan that she didn't have any interest in this handsome guy who was pursuing her. In fact, she hated him. Yi Fan was silly and didn't ask. Just like that, the two of them missed each other again. After that, many things happened that caused the two of them to miss each other again. By the time Yi Fan understood this, it was already too late, because Fang Yuehua was already dead. In order to avenge Fang Yuehua, Yi Fan used a secret technique to search Fang Yuehua's remnant soul and search her memories in order to find her murderer. Yi Fan succeeded and obtained Fang Yuehua's memories. He knew who the murderer was, and also knew Fang Yuehua's behavior over the years. Fang Yuehua actually liked him and would even use a diary to record the thoughts of these little girls. When Yi Fan found out about this, his heart ached. After avenging Fang Yuehua, he spent a long time calming down these inner wounds and regrets, and even completely forgot about them. Of course, this was only what he thought. The wounds and regrets in his heart were all exposed during the Tao unification, which almost killed Yi Fan. Yi Fan would definitely not be so silly in this life after being reborn. However, the stubbornness in his personality would not change. Fang Yuehua had said that she liked handsome guys. Yi Fan knew that she was hiding something at that time, but he still wanted to satisfy Fang Yuehua's expectations and requests. When an immortal cultivator's cultivation reached a certain level, they could change their appearance. Moreover, this change was a change in the root of their cells and bone structure. It was similar to changing one's genetic structure. In order to do this, one had to at least pass the Qi refinement realm. Wang Haoran felt that Yi Fan would use his handsome appearance to pursue Fang Yuehua and satisfy her greatest expectations before wooing her. However, Yi Fan's current cultivation was only at the 5th level of the Qi refinement realm. It would take some time for him to pass the Qi refinement realm. In other words, even if Yi Fan came to look for Fang Yuehua, it was unlikely that he would directly pursue her. Perhaps he would just come over to take a look. Of course, this was only Wang Haoran's conjecture about Yi Fan. He still needed time to verify the specifics. However, it did not take long. Wang Haoran stayed in Cheongzhou for 2 days. When it was close to the end of the evening's self-study period, he saw Yi Fan at the entrance of Fang Yuehua's school. Wang Haoran stayed in a nearby guest house. During the day, He would use his X-ray vision to observe Fong Yurua's movements. At night, after school, he would secretly follow Fong Yurua until Fong Yurua returned home. Yi Fan's appearance naturally did not escape Wang Haoren's eyes. At this moment, Yi Fan was sitting in a commercial car. There were 3 people in the car. One was the driver, one was a middle-aged man, and the other was Yi Fan. After Yi Fan arrived, he sat quietly in the car and looked in the direction of the school gate. Not long after, the bell rang for the end of the evening self-study period. The students who were studying went home one after another. Fong Yurua's family was very well-to-do. She was a fair, rich, and beautiful woman. After school, she would be picked up by a luxury car. In this regard, she was similar to Wang Haoren. Not long after, Fong Yurua, who was holding a book in her arms, appeared at the school gate. After seeing her, Yi Fan's expression was obviously moved. The light in his eyes was extremely complicated, but in the end, it was dominated by joy, hope, and longing. However, after Fong Yurua got in the luxury car, Yi Fan still did not get out of the car. "Master Yi, are you here to look for this girl? Then, why don't you get out of the car?" In Chi, who was in the car, asked in confusion. "It's not the time to see her yet." Yi Fan closed his eyes and responded. His voice had lost its usual calmness. The mixed emotions in it could only be understood by himself and Wang Haoren, who had replicated Yi Fan's memory. "Then when is the time to see her?" Inchi was really curious, so he asked another question. "The day when I become famous." Yi Fan was in a good mood, so he was not stingy with his answer. Then, he silently said in his heart, "You wrote in your diary that you hoped that the person you loved would be a hero of the world, and that one day he would come to marry you on a rainbow cloud. I know that this is just a little girl's daydream. Perhaps you knew this when you wrote it, but I will make your wish come true." Chapter 583. After saying that, Yi Fan's eyes flickered. After a while, he retracted his gaze and said to In Chi, "Let's go." "Where do you plan to go, Master Yi?" In Chi asked in confusion. Yi Fan answered without hesitation, "Hong Kong Island." "Why are you going to Hong Kong Island?" In Chi was a little curious. This time, Yi Fan did not satisfy his curiosity. Instead, he remained silent and did not answer. The reason he was going to Hong Kong Island was that the handsome man who pursued Fong Yurua in his previous life was from Hong Kong Island. After obtaining the memories of Fong Yurua's previous life, Yi Fan naturally knew that this man had been pestering Fong Yurua many times. Although Fong Yurua did not let him take advantage of her, this man had contributed greatly to the fact that he and Fong Yurua did not end up together in their previous life. After his rebirth, Yi Fan naturally wanted to settle this matter properly. Seeing that Yi Fan did not answer, In Chi tactfully did not ask further and asked the driver to drive. Not long after, the car emerged into the traffic. Wang Haoren retracted his gaze, and his eyes flickered with surprise. He had naturally seen the conversation between Yi Fan and In Chi and knew what they were talking about. What Wang Haoren had expected was a little different from Yi Fan's behavior. He originally thought that Yi Fan would change his appearance to become a handsome man after passing the Qi refinement realm, and then start pursuing Fong Yurua. However, Yi Fan said that he would only meet Fong Yurua when he became famous. This meeting could actually be understood as pursuing. Moreover, from Yi Fan's words, it seemed like he did not intend to change his appearance. This was a little beyond Wang Haoren's expectations, but on second thought, he felt that it was reasonable. Yi Fan looked ordinary in his previous life, but Fong Yurua still fell in love with him. Why would he change his appearance to pursue her? A celestial venerable had the pride of a celestial venerable. Yi Fan seemed to hope that Fong Yurua would fall in love with his original appearance. If he turned into a handsome man, he would not be the real Yi Fan. Yi Fan probably hoped that Fong Yurua would fall in love with him, and not because he was handsome. Wang Haoren did not expect this mentality in advance. After all, as a super handsome man, he could not truly understand the thoughts of the ordinary-looking Yi Fan. Fortunately, Wang Haoren's general direction was not wrong. Yi Fan didn't immediately chase after Fong Yurua. He didn't even show himself to catch her. Although there were twists and turns, the result was still within Wang Haoren's expectations. This didn't affect his plan to intercept Fong Yuruo in advance. After Yi Fan came to see Fong Yuruo, he wouldn't be coming for a while. Wang Haoren's plan could now be implemented. He immediately left the homestay. In the past 2 days, Wang Haoren had already figured out where Fong Yuruo's house was. He also knew the route that the driver would take to pick her up. When he was tailing Fong Yuruo, Wang Haoren had already come up with a plan. Now that Yi Fan had left, it was time to carry out this plan. Avoiding the crowd, Wang Haoren began to rush toward the road that Fong Yuruo had to pass through on her way home at a speed comparable to a car's 100 km/h speed. Not long after, Wang Haoren arrived at a road. Wang Haoren estimated the time. Even if there was no traffic jam, it would take at least 5 minutes for the car to pick up Fong Yuruo. Wang Haoren glanced around, searching for a suitable target. Soon, he saw a young woman pushing a stroller. While waiting for Yi Fan's arrival, Wang Haoren also picked some relatively simple but practical spells to learn. Among them, there was a spell called Bewitchment. After reaching the 5th level of the Qi refinement stage, he could use this spell. However, because he had just started learning it, the effect wasn't particularly strong. For example, using Bewitchment to confuse cultivators with strong willpower would have almost no effect. However, it was no problem to deal with ordinary people. Wang Haoren immediately used Bewitchment on the young woman pushing the stroller and successfully bewitched her. After waiting for a while, Wang Haoren used his X-ray vision to see the car Fong Yuruo was in from afar. The speed of the car was about 40 to 50 km/h. Wang Haoren pretended to be walking on the side of the road and came to the zebra crossing. The young woman pushing the stroller also came here. However, the two of them were some distance away. It was as if they didn't know each other at all. When the car approached, Wang Haoren used Bewitchment on the driver again. The driver's willpower was relatively strong, and he only lost his mind for a short while. However, this short period of time was more than enough. When the car was about to reach the zebra crossing, the young woman's hand that was pushing the stroller accidentally slipped, and the stroller slipped forward. It looked like the stroller was about to be hit by the car. However, at this critical moment, Wang Haoren rushed up and pushed the stroller back. The stroller successfully dodged and was safe and sound, but Wang Haoren was sent flying a few meters away and rolled on the ground for a while. After rolling for a while, Wang Haoren adjusted himself to a more handsome posture and then lay on the ground. He was covered in blood and looked terrible, as if he was about to die. The chauffeur was shocked when he bumped into the man and hurriedly stopped the car. "Uncle Lee, what's wrong?" Fong Yuruo was reading in the back seat. After hearing the noise, she asked in surprise, "Miss, I hit someone." The driver responded to Fong Yuruo with a trembling voice. Then he quickly took off his seat belt and walked toward Wang Haoren, who was lying in a pool of blood in front of him. Fong Yuruo immediately put down her book and got out of the car to take a look. Soon, the two of them came to Wang Haoren's side. Wang Haoren's face was facing the sky. His eyes were closed, and he seemed to be unconscious. Fong Yuruo recognized him at a glance. He was the boy she had seen 2 days ago. She was not a fangirl, but her impression of handsome men was definitely deeper than the average person's. The driver immediately called the emergency number and then the traffic control. Fong Yuruo gathered her courage and squatted down to check Wang Haoren's breathing. When she found that Wang Haoren was still breathing, she was slightly relieved. Not long after, the ambulance and the traffic control arrived. Wang Haoren was sent to the hospital. The traffic control checked the surveillance cameras next to the zebra crossing and found out what had happened. The situation was that a young woman's hand slipped and accidentally let the stroller slip out. A careless driver did not notice and did not slow down in time when he approached the zebra crossing. He was about to hit the stroller. However, at this moment, a brave young man rushed up and saved the stroller, but he was hit by the car. After figuring this out, the traffic control praised the young man who saved the stroller. At the same time, they could not help but worry about the young man's safety. Fong Yuruo was also impressed when she heard this. She did not expect that the handsome man she had met once was such a kind and brave person. The driver was suspected of dangerous driving and was taken away by 2 traffic control officers. The remaining 2 traffic control officers decided to go to the hospital to check on the young man's safety. Fong Yuruo was also worried, so she followed them to the hospital. Chapter 584. After Wang Haoren was sent to the hospital, he was pushed into the emergency room for resuscitation. After Tong Guan and Fong Yuruo arrived at the hospital, they waited at the door of the emergency room. About an hour later, the warning light outside the emergency room went out, indicating that the operation was over. Soon, the door of the emergency room opened. Tong Guan and Fong Yuruo hurried forward and nervously asked about the safety of the young man who had sacrificed himself to save others. When the attending doctor replied that his life was no longer in danger, Tong Guan and Fong Yuruo both heaved a sigh of relief. Wang Haoren lay on a moving bed and was pushed into a ward. The doctor asked Fong Yuruo if she knew the patient. Fong Yuruo said that she didn't know him, but she took the initiative to say that she was willing to bear all the medical expenses. Firstly, it was her driver who had hit him. Secondly, Fong Yuruo was very kind, and she couldn't contact the patient's family for the time being. Even if it was out of kindness, she should help. Of course, Fong Yuruo was still a student and didn't have any income. However, for a rich girl, this wasn't a problem at all. Although she didn't have any income, she had saved up New Year's money. The amount of New Year's money was as high as 7 digits. It was enough to pay for the medical expenses. "Doctor, will that boy have any sequelae?" After discussing with the doctor about paying the medical expenses, Fong Yuruo asked about the details. Fong Yuruo had seen Wang Haoren before and thought that he was good-looking. If such a good-looking boy had any sequelae, such as disability in the future, it would be terrible. If he's taken good care of, he definitely won't. The anesthesia will wear off soon. He should wake up soon. You can ask him and contact his family to take care of him. The doctor gave a suggestion. Fong Yuruo nodded. "Thank you, doctor." After saying that, she went to Wang Haoren's ward. Wang Haoren was lying flat on the hospital bed with his eyes closed and a vital signs monitoring device tied to his body. He looked unconscious. After Fong Yuruo arrived, she waited quietly beside the bed. While waiting, she inadvertently sized up Wang Haoren. Previously, she had only taken a quick look and didn't look very carefully. Now that she was up close, she realized that this boy was really handsome. After taking a few more looks, she felt mesmerized. Fong Yuruo was a little shy and quickly averted her gaze. However, there was no one else beside her, and the boy hadn't woken up. Who would notice her? Fong Yuruo calmly looked at Wang Haoren's face while waiting for him to wake up. In fact, Wang Haoren had always been conscious. He seemed to have closed his eyes, but he could see his surroundings with his X-ray vision. In order to trick Fong Yuruo, Wang Haoren went all out. She was hit by a car on the road, and it was indeed a solid hit. His internal organs were severely shaken, and he was in incomparable pain. The blood was real. However, although it looked scary, it was only a minor injury for Wang Haoren. During the rescue, it seemed like he would die if he was not careful. This was also the reason why Wang Haoren deliberately controlled his vital signs. This was the power of immortal cultivators. They could even fool scientific instruments. The reason why he had put on such an act was because he wanted to use this opportunity to get closer to Fong Yuruo. Wang Haoren had copied Yi Fan's memory, so he naturally knew how much Fong Yuruo liked Yi Fan in his previous life. At that time, Yi Fan was a hero who saved the beauty. He was beaten up badly and stayed in the hospital for a long time. During the hospitalization, Fong Yuruo had been taking care of Yi Fan. As they came into contact, they developed feelings for each other. Wang Haoren had carefully analyzed the reason. Fong Yuruo was a very kind person. She especially appreciated boys who had the trait of acting bravely for a just cause. Wang Haoren had gone through all this trouble just to show this trait of his to Fong Yuruo. With this first impression, it would be much smoother for them to come into contact later. Fong Yuruo naturally wouldn't like such a boy just because of these traits. Later on, getting along with each other was very important. Yi Fan was introverted and clumsy. During his stay in the hospital, Fong Yuruo fell in love with him. Wang Haoren felt that the reason was because Fong Yuruo had too few contacts with boys. In the past, she had deliberately kept a distance from boys. She didn't even have any male friends and had never been so close to a boy. A girl's first awakening of love, and Yi Fan happened to walk in her world. Coupled with the fact that Yi Fan had a trait that she admired, it didn't take long for her to develop feelings for him. To be honest, Wang Haoren felt that if it were any other boy who had Yi Fan's experience, Fang Yuruo might fall in love with him. Of course, the premise was that he had the providence that came with the protagonist's halo. Those without providence wouldn't be able to encounter such a good thing. However, Wang Haoren felt that he was completely in line with this. He now had more than 20,000 villainous halos. The villainous halo also had providence, and this providence was extraordinarily strong. He had both the trait and providence. Wang Haoren was much better than Yi Fan when it came to wooing girls. If Yi Fan could do it, why couldn't he? At the end of the day, Yi Fan did not deliberately pursue Fang Yuruo. Yet, Fang Yuruo fell in love with him. Not only was Wang Haoren experienced in flirting with girls, but he also had a condition that Yi Fan did not have. He had to be handsome. Currently, he had all the basic requirements, but he was still lacking an opportunity for Fang Yuruo to take care of him while he was hospitalized. Wang Haoren had been paying attention to Fang Yuruo's reaction. He knew about the conversation between Fang Yuruo and the doctor. The doctor meant for Fang Yuruo to ask his family and get them to take care of him. Wang Haoren continued to pretend to be asleep for a while. He moved his fingers gently, and the signs of waking up gradually intensified. Soon he woke up. Fang Yuruo had been guarding by his side the whole time, so she naturally noticed Wang Haoren's movements. Seeing Wang Haoren wake up, Fang Yuruo asked softly, "How are you?" I'm in heaven, right? Am I dead?" Wang Haoren pretended to be weak as he replied. He looked very weak. "You're not dead. You're still alive." "This is the human world," said Fang Yuruo. "The human world? How can there be an angel in the human world?" Wang Haoren stared at Fang Yuruo and muttered, "Ding." The female lead Fang Yuruo's favorability towards the host has increased by 10. Current favorability is 40, very friendly. Fang Yuruo was stunned for a moment before she realized that this boy was treating her as an angel. She didn't know how many people had praised her for her beauty, but she had never felt her heart race like this time. This was because in Fang Yuruo's mind, this kind of praise was not flattery, nor was it flirting. After all, would a person who had just escaped death know how to flirt? How is that possible? "I'm not an angel. My name is Fang Yuruo. We met at school 2 days ago. Don't you remember?" Fang Yuruo reminded him. Chapter 585. Hearing Fang Yuruo's words, Wang Haoren seemed to have calmed down a little because he had just woken up. He seemed to recall for a moment and quickly pretended to be enlightened. "Oh, I remember now." After responding, he reported his name. "My name is Wang Haoren." "Wang Haoren." Fang Yuruo repeated the name silently and remembered it. "Why are you here?" Wang Haoren asked in surprise. Hearing this, Fang Yuruo felt a little guilty and said carefully, "Actually, it was my family's driver who hit you. He usually drives very carefully and has never had an accident. He definitely didn't do it on purpose." As she spoke, she suddenly made a statement. "Of course, I'm not expecting you to forgive him. After all, many mistakes in the world are unintentional. Just because it's unintentional doesn't mean that you don't have to pay the price." Hearing this, Wang Haoren's understanding of Fang Yuruo deepened. Fang Yuruo was indeed very kind, but she wasn't the kind of annoying saintess. Regarding this point, Wang Haoren pondered for a moment and felt that this should be the case. In Yi Fan's main storyline, Fang Yuruo was going to embark on the path of cultivation in the future. The path of cultivation was full of twists and turns and difficult. Without a strong heart, one couldn't go further. It's not his fault. Wang Haoren appeared very magnanimous. He was the one who secretly manipulated this matter, so of course, he wouldn't blame anyone else. "Thank you for understanding," Fang Yuruo said. Although she didn't expect Wang Haoren to forgive her, she was still very grateful to Wang Haoren for saying so. "By the way, why did you suddenly rush over to save that baby? Aren't you afraid of death?" Fang Yuruo asked curiously. "My first reaction was to not let the baby get hit. I didn't have time to think about other questions." Wang Haoren gave a very reasonable answer. In fact, most people who acted bravely for a just cause didn't have much time to think. If one had enough time to consider whether they would be in danger before acting bravely for a just cause, many acts of bravery for a just cause would not have happened. Wang Haoren felt that it would be strange if he boasted that he would rather lose his life to save the baby. Because if he said that, it would seem like he was doing it on purpose. Only a saint would do something like risking his life to save someone. However, the saint was just an exception. After hearing this, Feng Yurua's admiration for Wang Haoren did not diminish at all. Even if it's the first reaction, it's already very rare. There aren't many people like that. However, the price was that I almost lost my life. Wang Haoren laughed self-deprecatingly. You're already in such a state, yet you're still in the mood to joke around. Feng Yurua had a strange look on her face. Misfortune may be a blessing in disguise. Maybe this is not entirely a bad thing. At least I made a friend, right? Wang Haoren smiled handsomely at Feng Yurua and then added, You're right. Of course, the premise is that you're willing to be my friend. That's exactly what I want. Feng Yurua smiled back. Wang Haoren smiled. He smiled very happily, but soon he remembered that he was a patient who had just been out of danger. It was really inappropriate for him to smile so happily, so he immediately pretended to aggravate his injuries and coughed a few times, coughing until his face turned red. Feng Yurua was shocked. Her eyes were full of concern, and she almost called the doctor. However, Wang Haoren's face quickly returned to normal, but he still looked a little pale as if he had lost too much blood. What's the phone number of your family? I'll call your parents for you. You still need someone to take care of you while you're in the hospital. Feng Yurua saw that it was getting late, so she immediately talked about important matters. Hearing this, Wang Haoren looked gloomy and fell silent. Feng Yurua realized that she might have said something wrong, so she quickly apologized. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ask this. There's no need to inform my parents. They're busy with the divorce, so they won't care if I live or die. Wang Haoren said casually. These words sounded very vague, but Feng Yurua got the key information from them. After sorting out these things, Feng Yurua couldn't help but sympathize with Wang Haoren a little more. She comforted him. How can that be? Which parents don't care about their children? I'm just a nobody. Even if I were to die, no one would care. Wang Haoren's expression was mournful. Feng Yurua saw this and felt a little sorry for him. It turned out that such a good-looking boy had such an unhappy family. It was really rare for a boy to grow up in such an unhappy family to have such a good heart. The world is so big. There must be someone who cares about you. Feng Yurua comforted Wang Haoren softly. Who would care? Wang Haoren asked in a mournful tone. Feng Yurua didn't know the people around Wang Haoren. After hearing this, she couldn't help but feel a little speechless. However, Wang Haoren's expression really made her heart ache. In a hurry, she blurted out, Me, I care about you. Wang Haoren was stunned and looked at her seriously. Feng Yurua blushed a little and hurriedly added, We're friends. Yes, we're friends. The sadness on Wang Haoren's face seemed to lessen a little, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Feng Yurua breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that his expression had improved. But soon, she realized another problem. If Wang Haoren didn't want to inform his family, who would take care of him? Hire a senior nurse? Feng Yurua had this idea, but she quickly shook her head, because she felt that what Wang Haoren needed now was not simply someone to take care of him, but more spiritual comfort. And the caregivers that were hired with money were far from being able to meet this requirement. Thinking of this, Feng Yurua pondered for a moment and soon made a decision. Don't think too much. Have a good rest. I will take care of you while you are in the hospital. We are friends. Shouldn't friends help each other? You have to go to school. Won't this delay your studies? Wang Haoren said politely. The third year of high school is all revision. I've learned everything I need to learn. Reading in the classroom and here is not much different. It won't affect my studies. Feng Yurua felt that she could take care of him while studying. Then I'll have to trouble you. Wang Haoren maintained his weak appearance and agreed. You're welcome. Feng Yurua waved her hand and stood up from the stool. I'm going home to pack my daily necessities and clothes. I'll come over as soon as possible, and I need to tell my parents about this. But you can rest assured that my parents are very open-minded and will definitely respect my decision. Chapter 586. After hearing Fong Yurua's words, Wang Hao nodded with a smile and then looked sleepy. After all, he was a patient who had just been rescued. It was a little strange that he had talked to Fong Yurua for so long. When he saw that Fong Yurua had succeeded in tricking him, he naturally did not say anything more. Have a good rest. I'm going home first. Fong Yurua saw that Wang Hao seemed to be sleepy, so she quickly said. Wang Hao nodded and closed his eyes. Soon, there was the sound of even breathing. Seeing this, Fong Yurua quietly left the ward and gently closed the door. When he heard the sound of the door opening and closing, Wang Hao suddenly opened his eyes again. To be honest, it was really boring to just lie there like this. Wang Hao went through Yi Fan's memory, intending to find a magic spell that could be cultivated by 50% of the Qi refining stage to strengthen his fighting strength. After about an hour, there was some movement outside the ward. Wang Hao closed his eyes at the right time. Fong Yurua gently pushed the door open and entered. She was pulling a suitcase in her hand. There was a middle-aged couple with Fong Yurua. The woman looked to be in her 40s. Although there were some traces of age on her face, she was still charming. It could be vaguely seen how beautiful she was when she was young. Her appearance was 50% similar to Fong Yurua's. The middle-aged man next to her was tall and handsome. If he was not mistaken, they were Fong Yurua's father and mother. There was a reason why Fong Yurua was so beautiful. When she was at home, Fong Yurua had explained the situation to her parents. Her parents also appreciated this good young man who had acted bravely for a just cause and sympathized with Wang Hao's family. So they agreed to Fong Yurua's proposal. However, they still wanted to come to the hospital to see this young man who had acted bravely for a just cause. After arriving at the ward, Fong Yurua's parents saw that Wang Hao was sleeping. They did not disturb him and just secretly looked at him. When they were young, they were also handsome and beautiful. When they saw Wang Hao's appearance, they all exclaimed in admiration. This young man was really handsome. Then, the two of them looked at their daughter suspiciously. Both of them felt that Fong Yurua's offer to take care of Wang Hao was not purely out of sympathy. After being stared at by her parents for a while, Fong Yurua didn't understand what they meant. After a while, she reacted and quickly explained, Dad, Mom, I've only met him once before. It's not what you think. She was afraid of waking up Wang Hao, so she deliberately lowered her voice. We didn't say anything. Why are you so nervous? Mother Fong smiled. I'm just afraid that you'll think too much. I'm in my 3rd year of high school now. I just want to study hard and not be distracted by other things, Fong Yurua said seriously. Don't be so serious. I've been through this before. I'm still very open-minded about this kind of thing. My father and I met in middle school. Fong Chio's mother looked very relaxed, but then she declared, Of course, I'm not supporting you. You just have to look at this kind of thing with a normal heart. In short, you know what to do. Mom, don't worry. I won't fall in love before I get into university. Fong Yurua couldn't help but swear out of her shyness and yearning for a top university. Daughter, I support you. Father Fong smiled and gave her a thumbs up. As a father, he was actually a little repulsed by the matter of his daughter finding a partner. He didn't want his daughter to come into contact with this kind of thing so early. Some things can't be stopped. It's useless to swear. I even swore back then. Mother Fong muttered and glanced at her husband. Hearing this, Father Fong's eyes lit up. He remembered some proud memories from long ago and couldn't help but be in high spirits. Fong Yurua smelled the scent of gossip and looked at her parents with curious eyes. Okay, you've seen enough. Let's go back. Mother Fong didn't give her daughter a chance to ask. After saying that, she left with her husband. Fong Yurua's curiosity didn't diminish. She thought that she would ask her mother when she had the chance in the future. This ward was a separate advanced care ward. In addition to the hospital bed, there was also a bed for the nurses to sleep in. Fong Yurua quietly placed her luggage and then read for a while. When she felt a little sleepy, she lay down to rest. The night passed quickly. The next morning, Fong Yurua got up early. As a senior in high school, Her biological clock was almost fixed. After washing up, she read for a while. At this time, Wang Haoren also woke up. In fact, Wang Haoren almost didn't sleep. He was secretly studying magic. The reason why he pretended to be asleep was to make himself look like a patient. Seeing this, Fang Yuruo immediately put down her book and walked to the bed to look at Wang Haoren. "You look much better than yesterday." Fang Yuruo was surprised. Then, she went to get some water and helped Wang Haoren wipe his face. After doing this, she asked, "What do you want to eat? I'll buy it for you." "I don't have much of an appetite." Wang Haoren shook his head. As a patient, wasn't it strange to say that he wanted to eat this and that? Wang Haoren naturally wouldn't order food. Moreover, after his cultivation reached the qi refinement realm, his need for food was far less than that of ordinary people. Because spiritual energy could make up for most of the energy consumed by the human body. Ordinary people had 3 meals a day, but Wang Haoren's one meal could last for 3 days. "How can you not eat? Eat a little," Fang Yuruo persuaded. "I really don't want to eat." Wang Haoren shook his head again. Of course, Fang Yuruo couldn't rely on a patient. She didn't ask Wang Haoren and left the ward for a while. When she came back, she brought a variety of breakfasts. She bought these breakfasts from a nearby hotel because she was afraid that Wang Haoren wouldn't be used to the breakfast in the hospital cafeteria. Fang Yuruo hadn't asked about Wang Haoren's family's financial situation, but when she saw Wang Haoren's temperament, she was sure that he was definitely not a child of an ordinary family. Since he was from a rich family, he must be picky. "Look, I bought a lot of breakfasts. Which one do you want to eat?" Fang Yuruo put the boxes on the table in the ward, opened them all, and then asked Wang Haoren. Wang Haoren glanced at them and shook his head. "No, you must eat," Fang Yuruo said firmly. She picked up a piece of pastry with her chopsticks and sent it to Wang Haoren's mouth. Wang Haoren didn't want to eat it at first, but if Fang Yuruo was willing to feed him, he could reluctantly eat a little. He opened his mouth and ate the pastry. "Good boy." Fang Yuruo was delighted and praised him. She sounded like she was praising a child. Wang Haoren felt a little strange. Chapter 587. However, even though he found it strange, Wang Haoren did not respond. He just ate his breakfast silently. Seeing that Wang Haoren was listening to her advice, Fang Yuruo felt a sense of accomplishment. However, when he saw Wang Haoren remain silent, he felt that it was very strange. "What's wrong? Are you unhappy? I'm forcing you to eat for your own good," Fang Yuruo explained softly. "Why would I blame you? It's just that this is the first time someone has been so good to me. I'm not used to it." Wang Haoren's expression was complicated, and his tone seemed to be mixed with incomparable sadness. When Fang Yuruo heard that, she could not help but feel sorry for Wang Haoren. She was just feeding him breakfast, but he said that this was the first time someone had been so good to him. What kind of life had he lived in the past? "Don't your parents care about you?" Fang Yuruo wanted to know more about Wang Haoren, so she could not help but ask. "Ever since I was old enough to understand, they've been busy with business and have no time to care about me. The only thing they care about me is that they keep giving me money to spend. But what do I have? They don't understand what I need at all," Wang Haoren said with a choked voice. This was true. Wang Xiang and Zhun Li were busy with work and seldom accompanied him. In his memory, he had been very lonely for a long time after he became sensible and even after his childhood. When Fang Yuruo heard Wang Haoren's words, she felt that their families were very similar, but the situation was completely different. Although her parents were also busy with work, they also accompanied her. Therefore, her childhood was very happy. She had grown up almost without any care. In contrast, Wang Haoren was very miserable. Her parents were also busy with business, but they neglected to take care of her. Even now, their family was at odds, and they were asking for a divorce. Fang Yuruo finally understood that Wang Haoren was very lonely and lacked love. No wonder he reacted like this when she showed him a little concern. After learning this, Fang Yuruo was afraid of irritating Wang Haoren, so she didn't ask much about this family. "What kind of TV do you want to watch? I'll turn on the TV for you." Fang Yuruo changed the topic. "If you want to read, I won't disturb you. Besides, I'm not in the mood to watch TV." Wang Haoren shook his head. All right then. Fong Yuruan naturally didn't insist. After tidying up the things on the table, she quickly entered the learning mode and picked up some exercises to do. After working for a while, he was stumped by a question and immediately frowned. If they were in school, they could ask the teachers. However, at this moment they were in the hospital. Naturally, they couldn't ask. Seeing this, Wang Haoran suddenly said, "Did you encounter a question that you don't know how to solve? Do you want to take a look?" Fong Yuruo was surprised and looked at Wang Haoran. "I'm not joking. I'm currently in my first year of university. I've also taken the college entrance examination and my grades are barely passable," Wang Haoran explained. "May I ask how many points you got in the college entrance examination?" Fong Yuruo asked out of curiosity. "Not much, 691 points," Wang Haoran said casually. "Liberal arts or science?" Fong Yuruo continued to ask. "Liberal arts, 691 points in liberal arts." Fong Yuruo was stunned. With this score, he could choose any university in the country. "Which university are you studying at in the capital?" Fong Yuruo asked again. "It's too far away, so I didn't go there. I'm studying at Qingling University." "By the way, my home is in Qingling," Wang Haoran replied. Fong Yuruo nodded, picked up the test paper, and handed it to Wang Haoran. This was a mathematics test paper. After Wang Haoran glanced at it, he immediately told Fong Yuruo the solution to this difficult problem. Moreover, he gave her not one solution, but 3. Fong Yuruo originally thought that Wang Haoran was bragging about his college entrance examination score, but at this moment, she completely believed him. After coming to this conclusion, Fong Yuruo suddenly had a better understanding of Wang Haoran. This handsome boy who came from an unhappy family was actually a super top student. Fong Yuruo was overjoyed. One of the disadvantages of studying in a hospital was that she couldn't ask the teacher in time when she encountered questions she didn't know. But now, this problem had suddenly been solved. During the day's study, Fong Yuruo would ask Wang Haoran for advice when she encountered questions she didn't know. Wang Haoran didn't just tell her the answer, but also guided her thoughts. Fong Yuruo felt that she had benefited a lot. Unknowingly, the relationship between the two of them became closer and closer. In the evening, Wang Haoran felt that he could take a step closer, so he suddenly said, Can you? Wang Haoran wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. Fong Yuruo felt strange and couldn't help but ask, "If you have something to say, just say it. We're friends. Don't be so polite with me." "Actually, I've been holding it in for a long time, but I didn't have the nerve to say at the time. But now I can't help it. I want to pee." Wang Haoran seemed to be very embarrassed. After hearing this, Fong Yuruo's face gradually turned red. She wanted to take care of Wang Haoran, but she hadn't thought about this problem beforehand. And Wang Haoran hadn't mentioned it since last night. Fong Yuruo secretly felt that she was so stupid. She should have thought of this earlier. If she wanted to pee, Wang Haoran was also a human being. Of course, he would want to pee too. But Wang Haoran couldn't move freely now, so he definitely needed her help. Fong Yuruo was very embarrassed. She wanted to ask a nurse to come over and help, but she thought that Wang Haoran was a sensitive boy. If she did that, would it make him feel uncomfortable? After all, she had said that she would take good care of him. What's going on now? But if I help him, it's really... Seeing Fong Yuruo's embarrassed look, Wang Haoran said again, "Why don't we just forget it? How can that be?" Fong Yuruo immediately shook her head. As the saying goes, people have 3 urges. If she kept holding it in, even if she didn't die, she would get sick. "Actually, you don't have to help me. You just need to help me to the bathroom." Wang Haoran also felt that it was weird to lie down and not move. Fong Yuruo also found it a little difficult to accept. In order to get along better later, they needed to take it slow. "You're so badly injured. Can you really get out of bed?" Fong Yuruo asked. "I know my own body. It's fine," Wang Haoran said. "Then give it a try. If it doesn't work, you'd better not get out of bed." Fong Yuruo nodded and went forward to help him. Wang Haoran pretended to be careful. With Fong Yuruo's help, he went to the bathroom. Fong Yuruo was behind him, supporting him as she looked elsewhere. Wang Haoran began. Clatter. Although Fong Yuruo didn't see it, she inadvertently imagined the scene when she heard the sound. She was so embarrassed that her face turned red. After a while, the sound stopped. Fong Yuruo even felt that Wang Haoren was trembling. Soon, Fong Yuruo helped Wang Haoren to the bed. After doing this, Fong Yuruo was so nervous that fine beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. Chapter 588. I'm really sorry to have troubled you, Wang Haoren said. I said I would take care of you. It's okay. Fong Yuruo shook her head. Not long after, the doctor came over to check on the patient's physical condition and found that Wang Haoren was recovering at an astonishing speed. Back then, in order to fake his injuries, Wang Haoren didn't actually break his bones. He only caused some internal injuries to his body. However, he used spiritual energy to make these internal injuries look serious. After reaching the 5th level of the Qi refinement realm, his bones had become much stronger. It wasn't that easy to injure his bones. Moreover, if his bones were really injured, even with spiritual energy treatment, it would take a long time to recover. However, it was much easier to treat minor internal injuries. After the doctor discovered Wang Haoren's recovery speed, he didn't understand the real reason. He could only interpret it as a medical miracle. After all, he had just been rescued yesterday and was pulled back from the gates of hell. Wasn't it a medical miracle that he could get out of bed today? Fong Yuruo was also very happy about this. However, although he recovered quickly, he still needed some time to recover. It was impossible for him to be discharged from the hospital in a short time. In the following days, Wang Haoren and Fong Yuruo got along day and night. When Fong Yuruo encountered learning problems that she didn't know, she would ask Wang Haoren. Wang Haoren would answer Fong Yuruo's questions. In addition, they also ate together. They also rested in the same room. Wang Haoren even needed Fong Yuruo's help when he needed to go to the toilet. At first, Fong Yuruo was very embarrassed, but later, she gradually got used to it and became calm. About half a month passed in this kind of interaction, and Fong Yuruo's favorability towards Wang Haoren had increased to 50 admiration. Wang Haoren's condition was getting better and better. After the doctor's examination, he was told that he could be discharged in a day or two. Where do you plan to go after you are discharged? Seeing the doctor leave, Fong Yuruo asked curiously. I don't have a home anymore. It doesn't matter where I go. Wang Haoren looked like he had nothing left to live for. Seeing his expression, Fong Yuruo couldn't help but frown. She softly explained, You're not even 20 yet. You're still very young. You still have a long way to go in the future. Don't always look so negative. After consoling her, he gave her another suggestion. You should look forward to the future, to the things that you look forward to. That way, your life will be filled with hope. Looking into the future, for example, Wang Haoren pretended to be confused and asked. Fong Yuruo pondered for a moment before replying. For example, you might have a beautiful and nice girlfriend in the future. Isn't that something to look forward to? Who would like a terrible person like me? Wang Haoren shook his head in self-mockery. During this time, he had always maintained the appearance of a dispirited youth in front of Fong Yuruo. He was already used to it. Similar discouraging words would come out of his mouth, and Fong Yuruo sympathized with Wang Haoren's experience. The motherly brilliance in her female genes was awakened. She was very patient and used all kinds of methods to persuade Wang Haoren, hoping that he would pull himself together. Please, don't you look in a mirror? Don't you know that you're very handsome? Many girls will like a boy like you, Fong Yuruo said sincerely. Hearing this, Wang Haoren's heart skipped a beat. He felt that this was an opportunity. He suddenly stared into Fong Yuruo's eyes and said, May I ask what kind of boy you like? Fong Yuruo's heartbeat accelerated when she heard this. She had just comforted Wang Haoren. Now that he suddenly asked her this question, it was inevitable that she would be suspicious of Wang Haoren's thoughts. Although Fong Yuruo was happy, she wanted to hide her inner emotions out of reservedness and shyness. So, she replied to Wang Haoren. In any case, I don't like handsome boys. Fong Yuruo's original intention in saying this was to hide her inner feelings. However, it sounded like she was rejecting him in disguise. It was similar to what Fong Yuruo had told Yifan in her previous life. She likes handsome men. At that time, Yifan naively thought that this was Fong Yuruo's true feelings. However, as an experienced person, Wang Haoren would not be as silly as Yifan. Most girls were creatures who said one thing and meant another. Fan Yuruo was no exception. If you don't like handsome boys, do you like ugly ones? Wang Haoran asked. Yes, I'm different from other girls, Fan Yuruo said with a smile. I can become ugly. Wang Haoran looked at Fan Yuruo affectionately. As soon as he said this, Fan Yuruo became nervous again, because Wang Haoran's words had almost revealed his true feelings. Although Fan Yuruo loved him, she was not prepared to get along with Wang Haoran in a way other than friendship. Firstly, she was still studying and did not want to be distracted by these things. Secondly, she was afraid. She was a stubborn person. Once she decided on something or someone, she would never turn back. She was afraid that the feelings she gave would eventually become a sharp weapon that would hurt her and leave her bruised all over. After all, in this era, it was not uncommon for girls to give up all their feelings and be heartlessly abandoned. Fan Yuruo valued relationships, so she was very cautious and careful when dealing with this matter. She was even a little respectful and fearful, so much so that she did not dare to take the first step. I don't want to talk about these things now. I just want to focus on studying. After June tomorrow, if you still like me. Fan Yuruo thought about it and replied cautiously. However, before she could finish, she was interrupted by Wang Haoran. I understand what you mean. I'm thinking too much, but thank you for being so tactful. However, there's no need for that. A person whose heart is already full of hurt won't care about this kind of hurt. As he spoke, he squeezed out a smile. However, the disappointment in his expression could be seen by anyone with a discerning eye. When Fan Yuruo saw it, she only felt a stabbing pain in her heart and could not breathe normally for a while. She opened her mouth, wanting to explain that she liked him too and was not pretending to comfort him. However, she was afraid that after revealing her feelings, she would face another choice. She was really not ready. In the end, Fan Yuruo did not say it out loud. She was thinking that she would tell Wang Haoran about this when she was admitted to university. Moreover, she had already thought about which university she would be admitted to. That's right, it was Qingling University, the university that Wang Haoran was studying at. The room fell into silence. In the next 1 or 2 days, the two of them did not say anything. Unknowingly, Wang Haoran was also about to be discharged. Fan Yuruo went through the discharge procedures and left the hospital with Wang Haoran. I've decided where to go. Before leaving, Wang Haoran suddenly said. Where to? Fan Yuruo quickly asked. Abroad, Wang Haoran replied. Abroad, is it? Which country are you going to? Fan Yuruo asked. I don't know either. Wherever I go, I'll stay in a livable place for a long time, Wang Haoran said. You're not coming back. Fan Yuruo panicked. Maybe not. Wang Haoran smiled casually and said to Fan Yuruo, don't worry. However, thank you for taking care of me in the hospital during this period. This period of time may have been the happiest time of my life. I'm really grateful to you. Let this beauty stay in your heart forever. I hope you can find the person who can accompany you for the rest of your life. He could understand the emotions in Fan Yuruo's heart. Fan Yuruo refused because she felt that they might still be together in the future. What Wang Haoran was doing now was to cut off this hope in Fan Yuruo's heart. He was forcing Fan Yuruo to make a choice immediately. If he really waited until next year, it would be too late. Moreover, Wang Haoran had never pursued a female lead for such a long time. When Fan Yuruo heard Wang Haoran's words, she was dumbfounded. Her face gradually turned pale. She wanted to say something, but she didn't know how to say it. While she was in a dilemma, Wang Haoran also stopped the car on the side road. Wang Haoran opened the car door. Just as he was about to get in, he turned around and waved at Fan Yuruo. Bye. After that, he squeezed out a smile, a reluctant and helpless smile. Fan Yuruo saw this and felt as if countless needles were pricking her heart. Wang Haoran got into the car and closed the door. The taxi started moving and was about to merge into the traffic. Fan Yuruo understood that after this farewell, she would probably never see Wang Haoran again in this life. During the time they spent together in the hospital, all kinds of memories surfaced in her mind. Fan Yuruo gradually couldn't suppress the emotions hidden in her heart. Not long after, all her emotions gathered to a peak and finally exploded. At the same time, Fong Yuruo finally made a decision. Chapter 589. However, by the time Fong Yuruo made her decision, the taxi had already set off and was driving steadily on the road. Fortunately, it was not out of Fong Yuruo's sight. Fong Yuruo let go of her suitcase and let go of the reservations in her heart. She desperately chased after the car that was not driving very fast. Unfortunately, she was still a weak woman who lived like a princess. Even if she ran, she could not be faster than a car. Moreover, she could not hail a taxi on the road. She could only watch helplessly as the taxi drove further and further away from her sight. Fong Yuruo continued to chase, using all her strength, but she slipped and fell to the ground. She frowned in pain and could not get up for a while. "Come back, don't go. I like you too, I like you too. Come back." Fong Yuruo screamed at the top of her lungs in the direction of the taxi. Her voice was hoarse, but the taxi didn't slow down at all. Not long after, the taxi completely disappeared from her sight. Ding! The host has caused the female, lead Fong Yuruo, to be sad. Received 3,000 villain points. Yi Fan protagonist aura minus 150. Host villain aura plus 150. Tears quickly gathered in her eyes and gushed out like water from a broken dam, wetting her cheeks in the blink of an eye. Her vision also became blurry. "Come back, don't go." Fong Yuruo just sat on the ground and let herself cry and scream. Ding! The host has caused the female, lead Fong Yuruo, to be sad. Received 3,000 villain points. Yi Fan protagonist aura minus 150. Host villain aura plus 150. Ding! The host has caused the female, lead Fong Yuruo, to be sad. Received 4,000 villain points. Yi Fan protagonist aura minus 200. Host villain aura plus 200. Ding! The host has caused the female, lead Fong Yuruo, to be sad. Received 5,000 villain points. Yi Fan protagonist aura minus 250. Host villain aura plus 250. Ding! The female lead Fong Yuruo's favorability towards the host has increased by 10. Current favorability is 60, admiration. Ding! The female lead Fong Yuruo's favorability towards the host has increased by 10. Current favorability is 70, undying love. Ding! The host has greatly affected the direction of the plot. Received 10,000 villain points. Yi Fan protagonist aura minus 500. Host villain aura plus 500. When the passers-by saw a beautiful girl crying, they looked at her doubtfully and with heartache. Anyone who saw such a beautiful girl crying so sadly would be moved. Someone went up to console Fong Yuruo. However, Fong Yuruo turned a deaf ear to him and continued to cry. She kept muttering things like, "Don't go, come back. Why are you crying?" Then, a familiar voice sounded in Fong Yuruo's ears. Fong Yuruo was stunned and gradually stopped crying. She wiped her tears, and her blurred vision became clear again. A familiar handsome face appeared in her field of vision. Fong Yuruo could no longer control her emotions. She hooked her arms around his neck, fearing that he would leave. After a long time, he slowly loosened his grip and softly said, "Don't go. Promise me, don't go, okay? There's nothing for me to miss here. There's no point in staying here." Wang Haoran was afraid that Fong Yuruo would go back on her words, so he hoped that she could make it clear. As he spoke, he helped Fong Yuruo up from the ground. "Can't you stay for me?" Fong Yuruo asked expectantly. "Didn't you say?" Wang Haoran found it hard to believe. "I actually like you too. It's just that I have too many concerns, so I said the opposite." Fong Yuruo made her feelings clear. Hearing this, Wang Haoran was finally relieved and overjoyed. Then, he hugged Fong Yuruo and leaned forward a little. Fong Yuruo was suddenly attacked and had no time to react. There were still people around watching. Out of restraint, Fong Yuruo wanted to push him away. However, after feeling the scorching temperature on her lips, her heart melted a little. The tenderness in her heart spread and suppressed all rationality. At first, she was passively cooperating, but gradually, she took the initiative to respond. She couldn't wait to rub the other into her body and never separate them again. After a long time, the two let go of each other. There were some jeers and blessings from the side. because this handsome man and beautiful woman really looked like a match made in heaven. Fong Yurua's face was burning. She didn't dare to look at the eyes of the people around her. She just lowered her head and told Wang Haoran to leave. However, Fong Yurua had just fallen. Her knees hurt badly, her wrists were injured, and her palms were abraded. She felt very uncomfortable when she walked. Wang Haoran directly carried Fong Yurua in his arms and walked in a direction with her. Fong Yurua buried her head in his arms and didn't look around. Not long after, she felt Wang Haoran stop walking. She lifted her head, which was buried in his arms, and looked around. She realized that they were in the hospital. Wang Haoran took Fong Yurua to the trauma department for a checkup and took some medicine. Fortunately, Fong Yurua only suffered some superficial wounds and was not seriously injured. Wang Haoran continued to carry Fong Yurua out of the hospital and came to the gate of the hospital. Fong Yurua's luggage was still at the gate of the hospital. "I'm fine. Let me go." Although Fong Yurua was very greedy for the warmth in his arms, she was shy and didn't want to attract attention. Wang Haoran put her down at the right time. "I saw you leave in a car. Why did you come back?" Fong Yurua suddenly asked curiously after she steadied herself. Of course, Wang Haoran couldn't tell her that he had pretended to say goodbye forever and then tricked her into confessing her feelings for him. He replied, "After I left for a while, I suddenly felt very reluctant, so I asked the driver to put me down. I wanted to sneak a look at you and then leave, but I didn't expect to see you sitting on the ground crying. Fortunately, you came back. Otherwise, I might have cried myself to death there." Fong Yurua wrinkled her nose at him, looking a little resentful. Wang Haoran looked at her eyes, which were still red from crying, and said, "Why didn't you tell me at that time? We almost missed each other. I'm still studying, so I don't want to be distracted by these things. And I'm afraid that after I give you my feelings, you will suddenly abandon me in the future." Fong Yurua lowered her eyes and explained, "I see. Then I'd better leave. I don't want to delay you. I'll come to you after you're admitted to university next year." Wang Haoran said fearlessly. "No." Fong Yurua raised her eyes and looked at Wang Haoran. Her voice instantly became a lot louder. She had already made her feelings clear. Naturally, there was no reason to go back. Moreover, after saying her feelings, she felt as if she had been poisoned. He was the antidote to the poison. If they had to be separated for so long, Fong Yurua would definitely not be able to bear the pain of lovesickness during this period. She was a sentimental person. As the feelings in her heart burst out, she could no longer suppress them. Chapter 590. Wang Haoran had already guessed that Fong Yurua would have such a reaction. After hearing her words, he said, "Then why don't I stay in Xiongzhou with you?" Of course, he was coaxing her. The reason why he dared to say this was because he knew that Fong Yurua was not a selfish girl. "I also want you to stay in Xiongzhou, but you still have to go to school. I can't be so selfish as to let you stay in Xiongzhou with me." Fong Yurua was very tempted, but she still shook her head and continued after a pause. After a pause, she continued, "I still plan to be admitted to Qingling University in the future and study in the same school as you. You should be in the middle of your classes now. Did you ask for leave?" "Yes, because of some things, I specially asked for leave to relax. I was a little bored that day, so I went to your school to take a look." Speaking of this, he suddenly looked at Fong Yurua affectionately. "But I didn't expect to meet the angel who brought endless hope to my life. Maybe God saw that I was too pitiful and sent you, an angel, to save me." Ding! The host has stirred the heart of the female lead. Fong Yurua received 2,000 villain points. Fong Yurua's heart trembled. She didn't dare to meet Wang Haoran's burning gaze. She lowered her eyes and whispered, "I'm just a little girl. I'm not as good as you say." "No, you are the angel in my life," Wang Haoran said as he held her hand. Fong Yurua felt as if a honey pot had been knocked over. She was incomparably sweet. But soon, she thought of something and looked up to meet Wang Haoran's eyes. "You are so handsome. There must be a lot of girls who like you. There should be angels among them, right?" Wang Haoran was secretly shocked. He was amazed by Fong Yurua's intuition. To be honest, he really had a lot of angels around him. However, Wang Haoran's psychological quality was very good. Although he was shocked, he didn't show it on his face. Maybe, but you're the first angel to walk into my heart. Fong Yurua definitely wouldn't believe that no girls liked him. With his face, who knew how many girls would be willing to throw themselves at him, or even line up to be scum? Therefore, after Wang Haoren thought about it, he gave a more pertinent reply. At the same time, it was also a warning to Fong Yurua. After all, Fong Yurua would eventually meet those sisters in the future. After hearing this, Fong Yurua was satisfied and even a little proud, because she would unconsciously think that she was better than all the girls around her. Wasn't this something to be proud of? She even forgot to ask Wang Haoren which angels were around him because of her delight. After revealing their hearts to each other, Wang Haoren stayed in Cheongzhou for the next period of time. Wang Haoren told Fong Yurua that he had rented a guest house near the school for her so that he could meet her at any time. In fact, Wang Haoren had rented the guest house because of Fong Yurua. It was just that Wang Haoren lied about the time. During her free time in the afternoon, Fong Yurua would sneak out of the school to meet Wang Haoren. For the first 2 days, Wang Haoren and Fong Yurua took a walk near the school. As they walked, they reached a quiet place where no one was around. Wang Haoren took the opportunity to interact with Fong Yurua. After the previous time, Fong Yurua didn't resist anymore and responded shyly. As more and more things like this happened, Wang Haoren became a little worse. As the saying goes, a gentleman uses his mouth and not his fists. Wang Haoren was no longer a gentleman and started to use his fists. Fong Yurua was moved and let him be. Until one day, Wang Haoren used a reason to bring Fong Yurua to the rented guest house. Out of habit, Wang Haoren and Fong Yurua had a little interaction. But soon, Fong Yurua had a strange premonition that if she continued, she might lose something. So, she immediately stopped him. The reason was simple. She wasn't ready and needed some time. Of course, Wang Haoren wouldn't let her have her way. Previously, after cultivating with Ning Aoshua, Wang Haoren had gained a lot, and his cultivation base had increased greatly. During this period of time in Cheongzhou, there was no suitable cultivation target, so his cultivation base had been delayed a lot. Now that his relationship with Fong Yurua was getting deeper and deeper, he naturally wanted to make this happen. Of course, Wang Haoren didn't just want to have fun, but also cultivate. He just needed Fong Yurua's cooperation. This was because Fong Yurua needed to learn some of the cultivation techniques. Therefore, Wang Haoren lied and said that he had accidentally obtained a magical cultivation technique that seemed to be able to cultivate. Of course, Fong Yurua didn't believe it and felt that it was nonsense. However, Wang Haoren coaxed and finally made Fong Yurua agree. Ding! Host has captured the female lead Fong Yurua for the first time. Received 18,000 villain points. Fong Yurua's female lead Halo -900. Yifan's protagonist Halo -900. Host villain Halo plus 1800. Wang Haoren received a lot of villain points and Halo points. So far, Fong Yurua was the female lead who had provided the most rewards. She was indeed the only female lead in the Celestial Venerate. Of course, in addition, Wang Haoren's cultivation base had also improved greatly. He had directly advanced from the 5th level of the Qi Refinement Realm to the 6th level of the Qi Refinement Realm. Although it seemed to be only one level, it would take at least several years for an ordinary cultivator to cross this level. And this was in an environment with abundant spiritual Qi. Of course, everyone was different. There were some gifted cultivators among the cultivators. Yifan was one of them. But even Yifan, who had passed the Tribulation Realm and was recultivating, couldn't cultivate very fast on the blue planet where spiritual Qi was thin. It would probably take a few months to advance to the 1st level of the Qi Refinement Realm. However, Wang Haoren still didn't dare to let down his guard. The main character would have a fortuitous encounter. Although the blue planet seemed to have thin spiritual Qi, there must be a paradise on it. Yifan would definitely have to leave the blue planet in the later parts of the main plot. And to leave the blue planet, he had to reach the point where his physical body could cross the starry sky. And the Qi Refinement Realm was far from being able to do that. In other words, for Yifan to reach this level of cultivation, there must be conditions on the blue planet for him to reach this level of cultivation. Wang Howren was in a hurry to improve his strength because he wanted to suppress Yi Fan in terms of cultivation base and then snatch these cultivation resources. When his cultivation base reached a certain level, he wouldn't be afraid of Yi Fan's soul fire activated by the celestial venerate divine consciousness. Then, he would be able to destroy Yi Fan and eliminate all future troubles. Of course, it was still too early to reach this step. Putting away his thoughts, Wang Howren's attention was focused on Feng Yuruo. There were still some traces of tears at the corner of Feng Yuruo's eyes, which showed that she had just gone through a storm. However, the corners of her lips were slightly curved into a happy smile. Wang Howren looked at her and knew that she was still immersed in the afterglow and didn't feel anything else. After thinking for a while, Wang Howren suddenly said in surprise, "It's amazing. This is too miraculous. This immortal cultivation technique seems to be real. I can feel a mystical qi in my dantian." Chapter 591. After being reminded by Wang Howren, Feng Yuruo also came back to her senses. "Really? Of course it's true." Wang Howren looked excited. In order to make Feng Yuruo believe him, he activated his spiritual energy and snapped his fingers. A small cluster of flames emerged from his fingertips and then disappeared in a flash. He just wanted to make Feng Yuruo believe him. So he showed a little bit of his ability and didn't reveal too much, so as not to scare Feng Yuruo. Moreover, if he showed too much, it might make Feng Yuruo suspicious. The small flame that flashed away was just right. Feng Yuruo was stunned when she saw the magical scene. She originally thought that Wang Howren was spouting nonsense, and his goal was to trick her into doing that. Unexpectedly, it was true. Feng Yuruo didn't think that this was a magic trick because the moment the small flame appeared, she felt the heat of the flame. "Hurry up and feel it. Is there any change?" Wang Howren urged. Feng Yuruo did as she was told and felt it carefully. Soon, she showed a look of surprise and disbelief. "I also feel that there is a magical qi in the dantian of my lower abdomen. Then try to spread this qi all over your body with your mind," Wang Howren pointed out. Feng Yuruo nodded and did as she was told. Soon, she said what she felt. "It's warm and comfortable." "That's right." Wang Howren smiled and then took her pulse. After checking it slightly, he raised his eyebrows. Feng Yuruo was just an ordinary person before. After the preliminary cultivation, she had produced a lot of spiritual energy in her body and even showed signs of breaking through to the first level of the qi refining realm. Wang Howren was stunned. Ning Aoshue had also cultivated, and she had cultivated nearly 10 times, but her improvement was far less fast than Feng Yuruo's. Ning Aoshue was a martial arts genius, but Feng Yuruo's comprehension was higher than hers. Wang Howren was surprised for a moment, but quickly understood. Feng Yuruo was the sole female lead in Yi Fan's main storyline. In the future, she would embark on the journey of cultivation. Judging from Feng Yuruo's previous life, her achievements would not be low. The title of Fairy Yuru did not only mean that Feng Yuru was beautiful. After all, once a cultivator's cultivation reached a certain level, they could change their appearance. Therefore, there were countless handsome men and beautiful women among the cultivators. Even if Feng Yuruo didn't change her appearance, she still looked down on countless female cultivators. But that wasn't enough. More importantly, the title of fairy came from one's strength. In his previous life, Feng Yuru was not weak at all. If she had not died, she would definitely have been able to transform from Fairy Yuru to Supremacy Yuru. From this, it could be seen that Feng Yuruo's cultivation talent and comprehension ability were definitely not low. She was only slightly weaker than Yi Fan, but even so, it was shocking enough. After coming to this conclusion, Wang Howren hurriedly said, "Then try and see if you can gather the spirit qi in a specific place." For an ordinary person, it was very difficult to control the spirit qi that they had just obtained. It was like a baby who had just learned to walk. It was a little difficult. However, Feng Yuruo had extraordinary talent. Wang Howren naturally couldn't use the standards of an ordinary person to judge her. "Yes, I'll try." Feng Yuruo nodded, but she was somewhat at a loss. "Where should I gather the spirit qi?" The spirit chi can actually be used for treatment. If you feel any discomfort, you can gather the spirit chi there and use the spirit chi to nourish and treat it. It's more effective than any spirit pill, Wang Haoran reminded her. Upon hearing that, Fang Yuruo pondered for a moment. Back when she was chasing Wang Haoran, she had bruised her knees and scraped her palms. However, after taking medicine over the past few days, the injuries had quickly subsided. She only felt a little discomfort. Fang Yuruo wanted to use the spirit chi to treat those, but she soon realized that there was another place that needed the spirit chi to treat. As this thought arose, Fang Yuruo's face flushed red. Following that, she silently circulated her spirit chi. Soon, she felt a lot more comfortable. Wang Haoran put his hand on Fang Yuruo's wrist and could perceive the trajectory of her genuine chi. Originally, he wanted to see if Fang Yuruo could easily gather the spirit chi and use it for treatment. However, he inadvertently found that Fang Yuruo was treating a certain place. No wonder she blushed for no reason just now. So that was it. Wang Haoran wanted to tease her, but considering that Fang Yuruo was concentrating on using the spirit chi of the moment, he didn't disturb her. A moment later, he sensed that Fang Yuruo had returned the spirit chi to her dantian. Wang Haoran subconsciously used his jade eyes to take a look and immediately found that the redness and swelling had almost disappeared without a trace. She really deserved to be called a genius cultivator. It didn't take him long to figure it out. Wang Haoran exclaimed. Fang Yuruo felt it even more deeply. She felt that her worldview had been turned upside down. She curiously asked Wang Haoran, "Where did you get the immortal cultivation method? When I was traveling, I accidentally fell off a cliff. However, I didn't die and accidentally entered a cave. That's how I got it." Wang Haoran started to talk nonsense with a serious look on his face. Fang Yuruo was stunned, but she didn't doubt it. She just felt that Wang Haoran's experience was very bizarre. Then, she couldn't help but ask, does that mean immortality can be achieved through cultivation? In the immortal cultivation inheritance I got, it said that you can live forever. When your cultivation reaches a certain level, your body can even cross the void and travel the universe, Wang Haoran said. Fang Yuruo was fascinated, but she felt that it was too far away. It must be very difficult to reach this level, right? As long as you work hard, it won't be difficult. One day you could do it. Then we could be together forever. Wang Haoran painted a big picture for Fang Yuruo. Of course, this big picture was not empty. It was something that could be eaten. Fang Yuruo didn't really yearn for power, but she yearned for Wang Haoran's forever together. Mortals had to experience birth, old age, illness, and death. Two people who loved each other would eventually be separated by life and death. But if one cultivated immortality, one could break these restrictions. Wang Haoran saw the longing in Fang Yuruo's eyes. He suddenly winked at her and said, "Let's continue cultivating, okay?" Fang Yuruo wanted to say that she still had classes in the afternoon. Her studies were important and couldn't be delayed. But when the words came to her mouth, she suddenly felt that it was a little ridiculous. In the past, she wanted to get into a good university. This was her dream. But when her worldview was turned upside down, her dream also changed. Now that she could cultivate immortality, was studying still important? That was purely a waste of time. Her grades in the top university in the capital were a little stressful, but she could still get into Qingling University without any pressure. Since that was the case, why not use this time to do something more meaningful? After thinking it through, Fang Yuruo nodded at Wang Haoran with a red face and said softly, "Okay." Chapter 592. In the next few days, Wang Haoran spent most of his time cultivating with Fang Yuruo. Not long after Wang Haoran broke through to the 6th level of the Qi refinement realm, he was already showing signs of reaching the 7th level of the Qi refinement realm. This speed was very fast. Fang Yuruo's improvement was also very obvious. She had steadily entered the 1st level of the Qi refinement realm from an ordinary person. Don't underestimate the 1st level of the Qi refinement realm. At this level, she could already beat a neutralizing great grandmaster to the ground. With Fang Yuruo's current strength, She could almost stand shoulder to shoulder with Ning Aoshue. Wang Haoren also told Feng Yuruo some entry-level spells and asked her to learn them. Feng Yuruo's talent was so strong that even Wang Haoren was a little dumbfounded. Feng Yuruo could learn these simple entry-level spells in almost a moment. In this regard, even Wang Haoren was ashamed of his inferiority. However, there was nothing he could do about it. He was a second-generation rich villain and did not have the talent and comprehension for cultivation. Fortunately, the Devil Emperor's internal scripture did not require any talent for cultivation. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for him to embark on the journey of cultivation. However, Feng Yuruo's high comprehension was a good thing for Wang Haoren. In fact, in terms of cultivation, having a master to teach you and exploring on your own were two completely different things. The former was undoubtedly the case, and the progress was definitely faster. Feng Yuruo was the kind of cultivation genius who could almost learn everything by herself. After she learned it, Wang Haoren could ask her for advice. In just a few days, Wang Haoren learned a few more entry-level spells. At the same time, Wang Haoren was thinking about another thing. The reason why he cultivated the Devil Emperor's internal scripture was that it was the most suitable cultivation method for him in Yifan's memory. But for Feng Yuruo, it was different because there was a cultivation method that was more suitable for her. The Devil Emperor's internal scripture was part of Feng Yuruo's cultivation. She did not need to major in it and could be used as an auxiliary cultivation method. Feng Yuruo could choose to cultivate other cultivation methods that were more suitable for her. And the most suitable cultivation method was in Yifan's memory. Or to be more precise, Yifan had inadvertently obtained a cultivation technique when he was searching through Feng Yuruo's memories after her death. It was that cultivation technique that allowed Feng Yuru to become Fairy Yuru. If she had not perished in an accident, Fairy Yuru would definitely have become Supremacy Yuru. One could imagine how powerful a cultivation method that could reach the tribulation passing stage was. Wang Haoren had replicated Yifan's memories, so he naturally knew about this cultivation technique. The name of this technique was the Nine Heavens Ethereal Mantra. Compared to the Azure Thearka's secret art of longevity, this technique didn't have as many harsh requirements at the beginning. One could cultivate it at the first level of the Qi refining stage. Wang Haoren had the thought of teaching Feng Yuruo the Nine Heaven Ethereal Mantra, but he couldn't help but feel a trace of worry. He was afraid that Feng Yuruo's perception was too strong and her cultivation would surpass his. Once Feng Yuruo became stronger, she would have the ability to resort to domestic violence. Although Feng Yuruo might not be willing to hit him, Wang Haoren did not wish to see a situation where a woman was stronger than a man. However, Wang Haoren was looking forward to a situation where Feng Yuruo's cultivation level rapidly increased to the point of surpassing Yifan's. After Yifan's reincarnation, his immortal supremacy soul's consciousness was a lot weaker, but it was still very strong. If Yifan were to risk his life and burn his immortal supremacy soul, it could temporarily increase his cultivation level. Coupled with the soul fire released by burning his immortal supremacy soul, in theory, anyone below the immortal supremacy realm would be in danger. Of course, if Yifan were to burn his soul, he would be reduced to ashes. However, Wang Haoren did not wish to perish together with Yifan, nor did he wish to be heavily injured, leaving behind permanent repercussions. From this point of view, Wang Haoren needed the cultivation level of a tribulation transcendence immortal supremacy to completely eliminate Yifan in a safe situation. However, the journey of cultivation was long. It would take a long time to reach the tribulation transcendence immortal supremacy from the Qi refinement realm. It took Yifan 1,000 years to go from mortal to an immortal supremacy, one step away from the Tao integration realm. The extreme Heaven Devil Emperor cultivated the Devil Emperor Internal Sutra, and it took him about 800 years to go from immortal to a tribulation transcendence immortal supremacy. Wang Haoren did not want to wait for such a long time. If Yifan did not burn his immortal supremacy soul and fight to the death when he killed Yifan, he would have a chance to kill Yifan in advance. However, if the person who killed Yi Fan was Wang Haoran, Yi Fan would definitely choose to perish together with Wang Haoran. After obtaining Yi Fan's memories, Wang Haoran was certain that Yi Fan, a ruthless character, would definitely do that. However, if Yi Fan did not burn his immortal supremacy soul, everything would become simple. However, was that possible? Of course it was possible. If the person who killed Yi Fan was Fang Yuruo, would Yi Fan be willing to fight to the death? Wang Haoran was certain that Yi Fan would definitely not have the heart to fight to the death with Fang Yuruo. After his rebirth, Yi Fan's greatest obsession was Fang Yuruo. How could Yi Fan be willing to kill Fang Yuruo, even if Fang Yuruo wanted to kill him? After all, Yi Fan was not the kind of person who would kill his sister to attain the Tao. Fang Yuruo was the only female lead in Yi Fan's main storyline. In Yi Fan's heart, Fang Yuruo was even more important than himself. The prerequisite for this plan to be carried out was that Fang Yuruo's cultivation level had to be high enough. If Fang Yuruo only cultivated the Devil Emperor Internal Sutra, her cultivation level would definitely not improve as fast as Yi Fan's. After all, Yi Fan's starting line was already the 5th level of the Qi refinement realm. However, if Fang Yuruo used the Devil Emperor Internal Sutra as a supplement and mainly cultivated the 9 Heaven Ethereal Mantra, she would definitely have a chance to surpass Yi Fan. Moreover, Wang Haoran's current cultivation level was higher than Yi Fan's. Without revealing his killing intent, Yi Fan would definitely not have the thought of burning his soul to perish together with Fang Yuruo. In other words, although Wang Haoran could not kill Yi Fan without any scruples, he could suppress Yi Fan. There must be a cultivation fortuitous encounter in Yi Fan's main storyline. As long as Wang Haoran intercepted Yi Fan's fortuitous encounter, not only would he slow down Yi Fan's cultivation level, but he could also give part of his cultivation resources to Fang Yuruo. As for Yi Fan, because he did not have any cultivation resources at the moment, he could not cultivate the Azure Thearka's secret art of longevity for the time being. He could only cultivate the more advanced Qi drawing technique. The cultivation speed of the 9 Heaven Ethereal Mantra was naturally much faster than the advanced Qi drawing technique. It was only a matter of time before Fang Yuruo's cultivation level surpassed Yi Fan's. Moreover, it would not take a long time. After sorting out his thoughts, Wang Haoran increasingly felt that this plan was feasible. The only thing he was worried about was that Fang Yuruo would abuse him. However, after thinking about it carefully, he suddenly felt that the possibility of Fang Yuruo's cultivation level surpassing his was very small. The spirit Qi on Blue Planet was extremely thin, and the cultivation speed was greatly limited. However, the Demon Emperor's internal sutra that he cultivated was not affected by this kind of spirit Qi environment. The only thing that could affect his cultivation speed was the number of girls. Judging from the cultivation speed of a 9 Heaven Ethereal Mantra alone, it was definitely not comparable to the Demon Emperor's internal sutra. Fang Yuruo had the Demon Emperor's internal sutra as a supplement. In addition to the increase in her cultivation level brought by the 9 Heaven Ethereal Mantra, she also cultivated the Demon Emperor's internal sutra. However, the increase in Fang Yuruo's cultivation level by the Demon Emperor's internal sutra was controllable. As long as Fang Yuruo's cultivation level was higher than Yi Fan's, he would not cultivate the Demon Emperor's internal sutra with Fang Yuruo. This way, Fang Yuruo would be stronger than Yi Fan, but he would be weaker. Wouldn't all the problems be solved? Chapter 593. Wang Haoran finally sorted out his thoughts and was in a good mood. He told Fang Yuruo the 9 Heaven Ethereal Mantra. Fang Yuruo listened carefully. She only heard it once, but she remembered it all without missing a word. This situation made Fang Yuruo a little confused. Although her memory was good, it was not to the point where she could remember everything she saw. Why do I feel that my memory is several times better than before? Fang Yuruo said in surprise. When you reach the Qi refinement stage, you could be considered a beginner cultivator. Your body will also undergo some changes, such as being immune to all diseases and remembering everything you see and hear. Wang Haoran gave a brief introduction. He had these experiences before, so he naturally understood. It's incredible. Then I can remember everything after reading it once. In the future, I won't have to stay up late to memorize books. This way, the time spent on studying will be reduced a lot. With the extra time, I can, Fong Yuhua said with a smile, but she was a little embarrassed to continue. What can you do? Wang Haoran asked with a smile. You can miss me. After spending some time together, Fong Yuhua's shyness had lessened a lot. Although her face was still red, she was much calmer than before. If Wang Haoran had heard this before, he would have been unable to restrain himself, and Fong Yuhua would have gone through a storm again. But at this moment, Wang Haoran's heart only skipped a beat, and he didn't do anything. He said with reluctance, I'm going back to Qingling tomorrow. Fong Yuhua had experienced a lot. After saying that just now, she was even habitually prepared. But when she heard Wang Haoran's words, she couldn't help but be stunned. The joy and anticipation on her face faded a little. Are you leaving so soon? I received a call from my parents this morning. They said that as long as I go back, they won't get a divorce and will live happily in the future. Wang Haoran made up an excuse. He had been in Cheongzhou for almost 20 days. He shouldn't have left for so long. After all, there were a lot of female protagonists in Qingling. If he didn't pay attention, he might be targeted by the protagonist. Wang Haoran couldn't help but be a little worried. Now that his relationship with Fong Yuhua had been set, it was unbreakable. Previously, when he had pretended to say goodbye to Fong Yuhua forever, Fong Yuhua's accumulated feelings had exploded, and her favorability towards him had risen to 70, undying affection. After that, Wang Haoran used his charm halo once more, increasing his favorability by another 10 points. Moreover, during the time they spent cultivating together, their feelings for each other grew with each passing day, increasing their favorability by another 10 points. Right now, Fong Yuhua's favorable impression of him had already reached 90, unchanging until death. Even if Yi Fan wanted to poach him, he would not be able to do so. Your parents are going to reconcile, right? That's great. Fong Yuhua was also very happy for Wang Haoran. After all, they were her future father-in-law and mother-in-law. However, after a brief moment of happiness, Fong Yuhua revealed the sadness of their impending separation. As soon as I have time, I'll come to Cheongzhou to see you. Even if I'm not by your side, I'll miss you every day, at least 100 times. No, 10,000 times, Wang Haoran said. Yes, I'll miss you too. I'll miss you 20,000 times. Although reluctant, Fong Yuhua still nodded obediently and revealed a sweet smile. She was still studying, so it was not convenient for her to leave Qingling. Even if she wanted to leave, her parents would definitely have to persuade her. Fong Yuhua couldn't tell her parents that studying was not important to her at all. After all, cultivation was too inconceivable and difficult to explain. Moreover, Wang Haoran had also instructed her not to reveal this matter casually. After discussing, the two fell into a short silence. They were about to part. At this time, no matter how much they said, it was not as good as taking action. Wang Haoran and Fong Yuhua looked at each other and saw the burning passion in each other's eyes. There was no need for words. The two of them naturally expressed their love for each other through their actions. This time, it was not for cultivation, but simply to get to know each other before parting. Fong Yuhua had also almost abandoned the reservations in her heart and tried her best to cater to all of Wang Haoran's requests, no matter how excessive it was. In fact, she didn't even try to protect her safety. This was naturally Wang Haoran's deliberate move, because he really wanted to see if he could win a prize. Yi Fan was extremely obsessed with Fong Yuhua. What if Yi Fan suddenly found this surprise when he saw Fong Yuhua after becoming famous? What would his reaction be? At the very least, Yi Fan's Taoist heart would definitely be damaged, and it might even collapse. The path of cultivation was about having a clear mind and a strong Taoist heart. If Yi Fan's Taoist heart was damaged, it would be difficult for his cultivation to improve. Wang Haoran was looking forward to the arrival of that day. Of course, the premise of all this was that he could win the prize. If there was no middle ground, then it would be a waste. However, even if he did not win the prize, it would not affect the overall situation. Wang Haoran just wanted to give it a try. He wanted to try his luck. The next day, Wang Haoren left Cheongzhou and boarded the plane to Qingling. Fang Yuruo did not come to see him off because she was afraid that she would not want him to leave. Just as Wang Haoren embarked on the journey back to Qingling, some people and things in Qingling also changed a lot. After all, Wang Haoren had left Qingling for 20 days. 20 days was enough for a lot of things to happen. For example, Qin Fan's illness was completely cured and he was discharged from the hospital. Moreover, new hope was ushered in. Qin Fan had been plotted against, and his dantian was also destroyed. His body and spirit had suffered a double blow. These blows almost wiped out all of Qin Fan's hope for the future, making him feel like he had nothing to live for. However, at the darkest moment of his life, Qin Fan's disciple came. His disciple's surname was Xiao, and he was the old man who taught Xiao Yifeng medical skills. When old man Xiao found the crazy Xiao Yifeng in Qingling, he had no choice but to go deep in the mountains to seek help from Qin Fan. After Qin Fan checked on Xiao Yifeng, he said that there was hope for him to cure him, but he needed some rare herbs. After that, old man Xiao went all over the world to look for these rare herbs. There were a lot of twists and turns in the process, but his efforts paid off. Old man Xiao finally found them. When old man Xiao was looking for the herbs, he went to the great swamp, the mountains, the forests, and many other deserted places. He even dug up ancient tombs to look for the herbs. While he was looking for the herbs, old man Xiao also found the body of a demigod while he was digging up the tombs. This demigod was a eunuch in the palace, a demigod who had reached the pinnacle of martial arts. Even after death, his body would not decay for a long time. According to historical records, he was cut into the palace when he was young, and it was so clean that it could not be any cleaner. However, the strange thing was that this demigod's body did not have any missing parts. It was a normal man's body. Old man Xiao thought that this demigod had deceived everyone. However, after a careful check, he found a martial arts manual in the tomb. It was called the Heaven Repairing Secret Record. According to the manual, this eunuch was able to regrow his severed limbs because he practiced the Heaven Repairing Secret Record. Old man Xiao found it interesting, so he took the demigod's body and the Heaven Repairing Secret Record with him. When he reached a safe place where no one would disturb him, he studied it carefully. He wanted to understand the secret behind it, but his understanding was limited and he could not understand it all. Moreover, there was a prerequisite to practicing the Heaven Repairing Secret Record, and that was to castrate oneself. Old man Xiao did not dare to try it.